period. An overnight curfew for hospitality businesses is to be introduced. And China has locked down an entire city of 4 million people because of just 6 cases of COVID-19. FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
The provincial capital of Gansu province, Lanzhou, has just 6 cases of coronavirus, but the entry and exit of residents is being strictly controlled and limited to essential supplies or medical emergencies. The latest outbreak nationally has reached 198 cases since October the 17th.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at a debate over arts funding in Britain that is being mirrored in many other parts of the world. The UK government is planning to make it harder for young people to study the arts at university, proposing to emphasise instead student loans for courses focused on STEM degrees. But the proposals are generating controversy, cited as another attack on a sector of the economy that is vital to Britain's standing around the world. Professor Anne Carlisle is Vice-Chancellor of Falmouth University, which focuses predominantly on creative arts degrees.
Sometimes the arts don't help themselves by kind of categorising themselves as the arts. Creativity, without exception, is acknowledged as being one of the most important skills for the future economy. And it's a skill that obviously just doesn't belong to the arts, but it is very embedded in the arts because the way in which we problem solve, the way we create, the way we innovate is so valuable. So today, increasingly, what you get are artists working with engineers, with technologists, with scientists. Sadly, that just isn't understood.
She argues that governments should stop thinking about individual discrete subjects of study and instead recognise that creativity is central to innovative thinking across all disciplines. The main news again, the Queen will not participate in the COP26 climate summit in person, but will deliver a video message instead. US President Joe Biden has pledged more than $100 million to support Southeast Asia in the face of growing Chinese influence. And the Russian capital Moscow is to tighten COVID-19 restrictions after the country recorded more than 1,000 deaths over a 24-hour period. There's more from us on Twitter @FeatureStory. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
After this morning's police raid on Cosmopolitan magazine's male pleasure laboratory revealed that test subjects were forced to endure horrific abuses and inhumane living conditions, Onion reporters spoke to 23-year-old Daniel Chertok, one of the numerous men exploited for the monthly magazine's studies on erotic stimulation.
It was awful. It drove us wild for days on end. Once they made me lather myself with gallons of sexy bath oils, and then read thousands of racy text messages until my eyesight began to blur. Then for the next 12 hours, they blasted sultry songs into my ears and made me simulate 50 crazy hot sex moves. They said I couldn't rest until they found the bliss button on my randy regions.
According to Chertok, test subjects were often subjected to hours of grueling experimentation at the hands of female scientists. Chertok added that many of his fellow subjects were not lucky enough to survive the excruciating treatment.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, where you can call in, take control of the airwaves, and talk about whatever matters to you. 603-283-6160 is the call line for you to do that. That's 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian. And Conan.
And man, we've all heard about common sense gun control, which all too often doesn't have anything to do with common sense. But now Reno, Nevada is pushing things a little bit with what they're calling common sense whip control.
Whip?
Yes, whip, as in like the Indiana Jones tool of choice. Yeah, that. They're criminalizing possessing whips without a permit.
This is really going to ruin the Indiana Jones convention that happens there every year.
Is there really one there?
I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, I have no idea.
So the political wrangling...
No, but it makes me wonder, like, is there a problem in the streets of Reno with randos going around cracking whips at people?
Well, here, my question is, Reno, there's a lot of farmers there, right? Cattle farmers. This is the kind of people who would actually use a whip.
Well, it's not. It's only in the cities downtown where using or possessing a whip requires a city permit.
Okay.
Outside of downtown, presumably, you can possess and use a whip without a permit.
Is this maybe it's like a bondage thing? Where
No.
you have these people walking around with whips and chains?
No. Well, I don't know.
Well, that is an interesting question. Is it only if you're out in public? Or is it anyone, anywhere, indoors, private companies? Because, there are such things as dominatrix.
Yeah.
Right? And
I can see even people doing shows based around, the whips and chains and whatnot. And
now I'm curious how they define this, because the usual whips that dominatrix uses, they're like 3 feet long total, and they don't crack or anything like that. But they're technically called whips. So would that even apply here?
We'll find out.
Well, let's get to the meat and potatoes behind all this. Why is this sprung up? Why is this even a deal, a situation?
It doesn't really say, but the policy is in response to an increasing number of 911 calls by people mistaking the periodic snaps and cracks of whips as gunshots.
What?
Now, I don't know if anyone's ever been around a whip before as it cracks, but it is nowhere near as loud as a gunshot.
No.
Reno City Attorney Carl Hall said that the new restrictions were common sense whip control, reports the Reno Gazette Journal. He stressed that the ban only applies in several downtown neighborhoods and that the archaeologist's accessory isn't restricted in other areas of the city where it might prove more useful. A city staff report says whips have grown in popularity in recent years, with people using them, quote, in fights for intimidation and to practice cracking the whip. Man, Reno sounds wild. Whip-related calls to police have increased 61% from 2019. Reno police say that the people using them are amateurs when it comes to proper use, and it is evident that they do not possess it for any intended proper use.
What the hell does that mean, a proper use? Is the proper use of a whip only to, rustle cattle or something like that? Or
I would love to know why they think they have the right to determine whether or not someone should have a whip and isn't using it for a proper use. The new restrictions have proven controversial. Council member Jenny Breckus voted against the ordinance because it didn't apply citywide, thus leaving whips dangerously unregulated in most of Reno. Now, that's sarcasm. This article is coming from a libertarian-leaning place, so keep that in mind. Meanwhile, a representative for the state branch of the American Civil Liberties Union argued that banning the possession of whips without a permit, which is now a misdemeanor, hold up, this can't be real, only contributes to the criminalization of the homeless, said the American Civil Liberties Union.
Because homeless people are more likely to carry whips?
According to that representative, the city's homeless are known for using whips for self-defense.
All right. Well, I mean, you know what? England has their knife problem.
But they only have a knife problem because they banned guns.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I think I would rather have a whip than a knife that
it's got better reach.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I was a homeless person, what can I afford? It's already Reno, Nevada, where there's lots of ranchers already, so whips are probably on every shelf in every tractor supply, so they're readily available, and you could do some damage. Those things will do damage.
They will. The new whip ban is certainly unusual, but it's not unique. A county in Hawaii passed a similar ban in 2018. The Associated Press notes that the ban does not apply to private property, so if you're in a hotel room or whatever being a dominatrix, presumably that wouldn't apply to you.
Okay, because I was wondering where these calls are coming from. There's a story at mynews4.com, which is one of the TV stations out there in the area, and they say that the police respond to dozens of shots fired calls every year that turn out to be snapping their homemade whips. Well, if they're doing it on private property, then most of those people will not get caught up in this particular law, which makes the ACLU's point seem pretty strong that this is targeted against homeless people.
Yes, you're absolutely right, because they're primarily the ones who would be using it in public, considering they're always in public.
Correct.
There's a real responsibility of increased police interactions with anyone thought to be possessing a now prohibited whip. That's particularly concerning, given that most of the whips on Reno streets are homemade from chains, leather straps, rope, and string, according to police. Is anyone possessing bundles of these materials going to be subject to snap law enforcement stops now? One could imagine local police harassing innocent citizens based on unfounded whip tips, or even conducting sting operations to corral violators.
Sure can.
There also isn't any grandfather clause in Reno's whip ban, meaning once lawful whip-possessing citizens now have been made into criminals. It's understandable that Reno politicians and police want to get a handle on excessive 911 calls. Well, they could have achieved the same thing here with some public service announcements about what a gunshot sounds like versus what a whip sounds like.
Well, first of all, I don't think that dozens of calls every year is really excessive, right? Like if the number is dozens and they're not telling us what that number is, it could be 24.
Yeah.
And it's certainly
not
probably
hundreds.
not. Yeah, it's right. It's probably not into the hundreds. And so if we're dealing with 12 months out of the year, we're talking about maybe 2 or 3 calls a month, right? Maximum 4 calls a month, so 1 a week.
It's certainly strange to refer to this as common sense whip control, considering it's just about fake 911 calls. It's not about people running around attacking each other in the streets with whips or anything like that. It's just a way of minimizing the police workload when it's... I'm confused that anyone out there doesn't know the difference between a gunshot and a whip snapping. I mean, they're very distinctly different sounds at very distinctly different levels.
These are city dwellers, so it's probably people who've never had an experience with either of them.
Presumably that is the case, but it's crazy there in Nevada with the now outlawing of whips downtown. But again, it's just downtown and it's just in public property, but it's still stupid. And the way they're approaching it, it just makes it sound like the ACLU is right. And silly though it sounds, it does sound like it's a way of further criminalizing homelessness, because I wouldn't have expected it, but the homeless in Reno seem to use whips primarily as a tool of self-defense.
I got some numbers here. From January to September 2019, there were 63 calls made regarding the use of whips.
So yeah, a little over once a week.
Following this, 103 calls were made between January and September 2020. And 176 calls were made from January 2021 to the present. So it has gone up.
Wow.
But is 176 calls
that's 3 a week
enough to warrant this move from their city council to unanimously vote to ban whips?
Well, look at the one city councilor who voted no on it, but that wasn't because it was like, hey, this is stupid. We're not banning whips because dispatch is having to deal with too many calls. It was because it's not citywide. So people love their control. And evidently, I mean, 176 calls a year, that's a fair number of calls.
Yes.
It's a big city, too.
It's almost one every 2 days.
Yeah.
But still, how hard is it for a police officer to drop by and be like, yes, ma'am, you're an idiot. What you saw, what you heard was a whip, and in fact, not a gunshot.
Okay, well, question, where is this going to lead to? This has taken place. This has gone into effect. Are all these homeless whippers, are they going to be stopped in the streets this week?
I sincerely doubt they're going to be able to get a permit.
Nope.
But when we get back, we're going to talk about some darkness arrests. More than 150 people have been arrested in Europe due to darknet activities. 603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
My name is Angel Rach. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children, and I fought all the way to the Supreme Court for the right to use the medicine that saved my life. I've been permanently disabled for 10 years, with an inoperable brain tumor, wasting syndrome, and several other serious conditions. For 4 years, I was in a wheelchair, in so much pain, I couldn't even hug my kids. The hardest part was looking in their eyes and seeing how much they were suffering because of my medical condition. The medicine that gave me my life back and gave my kids their mom back was cannabis, also known as medical marijuana. With medical marijuana, I can walk, maintain my weight, and I can be a mom. Without it, my doctors believe that I would die. To learn more about medical marijuana, contact Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or on the web at mpp.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, where you can join us, share your thoughts and opinions. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And you may be wondering what these 3 vials here, they are actually hot sauces that Conan made. One from habanero, one from ghost peppers, and one from reapers. And that's because I have a bit of affinity for hot and spicy foods, which caused us last week to do the Carolina Reaper Challenge, which you can find over at video.freetalklive.com. You can watch both Conan and I suffer. You don't really get to watch me suffer a lot because when it got really bad, I went outside to where it was cold. But we're also live streaming to video.freetalklive.com because we're constantly being banned all over the place. YouTube is constantly banning us. We haven't been banned on Facebook in quite a while, but Twitch has done it in the past.
But almost no one watches on Facebook, so if we had more viewers, we'd probably get banned.
So check out our Odyssey channel. It's a decentralized platform where we can't be censored. Well, to be more accurate, we technically could be, but we won't be. And even if we are censored there, it's underpinned by a library where we can't be censored. So check it out, video.freetalklive.com. There's more than 1 million channel creators over there at not at video.freetalklive.com, at Odyssey. But the easiest way to find us there is video.freetalklive.com. Let's go to the phones. We actually have Ratspeed calling from Reno, Nevada. Ratspeed, you're on Free Talk Live.
Greetings, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Hey, what's on your mind?
I wanted to discuss this because I have firsthand personal experience about the very issue that you're talking about, the whips. So, kind of outing myself, I've been living in Reno, Nevada for almost 16 years now, and I can tell you that I understand why they made this law, but I don't agree with it. At the same time, I think it's a big duct tape over a festering problem that's a way bigger conversation than just whips. But
I understand where you're coming from. I mean, there's a lot of laws where I understand where they're coming from. I understand where they're coming from with the seatbelt law, with helmet laws and things like that. I don't agree with them, but I do understand why they think they're good things to have.
Yeah, this is just saving face on top of a bigger problem. The bigger problem is that for the last 5 years, the city council has been catering to corporate business and big business interests over the people, and as a result, we have thousands, well, okay, maybe not thousands, hundreds of homeless people whom were not previously homeless. It's a combination of gentrification, bulldozing a ton of historic weekly motels, which were most of these people's last leg, skyrocketing rental fees for leasing, and there's no low-cost housing practically, so the biggest problem is that the city council has, in fact, they just signed, they put into an ordinance a 20-year lease agreement or an exemption agreement with this company called Jacobs Entertainment, whom is a Colorado-based casino chain that's nationwide, and the guy came into town a few years ago, bought some of one of the local casinos, and anyway, bulldozed the entire west side of Reno where all of these people were staying, and this is what has compounded into a growing problem. I've been downtown for years, and I've never seen it as bad as it is here. I feel so sorry for these people. And the mental status, mental illness status is getting worse and worse. And
is that what leads them to purchase whips and crack them, or are they using them for self-defense? Why are people using whips?
Yeah, as opposed to any other weapon that's readily available.
So here's what I noticed is around the BLM protests, coincidentally, I don't think it has anything to do with it, but around that point is when the whips really became popular. It kind of started as like a trend. I would see up and down people walking down the streets, whether it be in front of the local faux cuisine or the casinos, or up and down the Riverwalk. And it's gotten so bad to the point where, it's day and night. I mean, it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden, whoosh, you hear this thing, and people letting off air horns and all that.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if they're buying them or making them. I think it's a combination of both. I've seen two different styles. One person in particular that I know about, 6 feet long. This whip doesn't even walk up and down the sidewalk. Basically, he's just kind of showing off. Now, I don't believe that these people are imagining or they're accidentally confusing these things for gunfire, because I know what gunfire sounds like. I've heard it, right? And
I also find that claim hard to believe. The sound levels between the two are drastically different.
Yeah, it's a stupid claim. They're probably trying to, who knows? Maybe some people are stupid. Maybe people are just trying to make up for the fact that, they hear a whip and they're getting tired of it and they complain about it. The one thing that I think is detrimental to the whole scene down here is that it is really kind of hurting the tourist industry. And that's where a lot of the bread and butter come from. So I think that's where they're trying to make this law about, is they are trying to save face in front of the tourists and make sure that the tourist money comes back in. But that's not taking care of the real problem. The real problem is that the city council, minus Jenny Breckus, she's a very nice person. I've met her personally. I don't agree with her stance about banning it citywide. That's stupid. But she does have a lot of gusto, and she's actually running for mayor. So against the
a lot of politicians are very nice in person because they want to curry favor with people. They're sociopaths.
So I do agree with a lot of the policies, because she's really fighting back against those corporate interests that the city is basically. A lot of people think that the council is just in the pockets of these people that are taking over they're undoing certain ordinances that are protecting the individual citizens that have been historically in place, even back when the mafia was running the town, right? But
I mean, as someone who does a fair amount of traveling, people, practicing with whips in the streets wouldn't necessarily deter me from touring the place, but a large homeless population certainly would make me uncomfortable and make me want to leave as soon as possible.
And that's the thing. I don't blame these people for being homeless because they had their homes taken away. I mean, they had, they were grungy, drug-filled places that, were like not a suitable place to live. But
they had a roof over their heads.
Yeah, they had a roof over their head, maybe $300 a week. No contracts needed, no background checks. Basically, if you're on the street and you need a place to live, you got it going on and on. So these, the individual property owners were making bank on this. But then Jacobs Entertainment comes in and starts pitching their quote-unquote neon line district is what they're pushing. It's going to be this big, swanky entertainment plays. They've been playing.
Oh, they want to compete with Vegas.
Oh, God. It's the Carano family who runs El Dorado, and they bought out Caesars. They had a merger, so now they own Harrah's, Caesars, Circus, Silver Legacy, and then
Caesars Entertainment is one of the largest entertainment corporations in the world. They got bought out.
Yes, but they made a deal with the Carano family. The Carano family has been in Reno for decades, right? So a wealthy Italian family. And then Jacobs from Colorado comes in and wants to compete with them. And so they just made a 20-year contract deal that gives them carte blanche access to...
Thank you so much for the call tonight, Rat Speed. Certainly sounds unpleasant, but the call sounded fantastic. If you want to sound that good, call us via the SIP line. That's ftl.onsip.info if you'd like to do that. Thanks for keeping us in the loop about what's actually happening in Reno. I would not have guessed it. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Queen will not participate in the COP26 Climate Change Summit in person. Instead of travelling to Glasgow in Scotland, Buckingham Palace says the 95-year-old monarch will record a video message for the gathering instead. The news comes days after her doctors urged her to rest after she spent a night in hospital a week ago. Royal commentator Peter Hunt.
Well, I think it's a decision that she won't have taken lightly. I mean, this is a very important event for the British government. It would have been very important for them to have her there. The decision would have been made because they will have judged that her health isn't adequate enough to sustain her, because she would be standing at a reception. She was meant to be attending a major reception for world leaders, but she now won't be there in person. Instead, there will be a video recording of a message of her to the people attending.
Meanwhile, a UN climate report is warning that countries face disastrous temperature rises if they fail to strengthen climate ambitions. From FSN's Europe desk in Brussels, Lucy Hoff reports.
The report says current pledges only reduce carbon by about 7.5%, far less than the 45% cut that scientists say is needed to limit the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, as laid out in the 2015 Paris Climate Accords. There are currently predictions of a temperature rise of 2.7 degrees, which the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has said would come with disastrous consequences.
US President Joe Biden has announced more than $100 million to support Southeast Asia in the face of growing Chinese influence. He made the pledge at the start of a yearly meeting of leaders from ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. From FSN's bureau in Washington, Kate Fisher reports.
The White House said the $102 million will help to pay for things like tackling COVID-19, climate measures, economic initiatives and education. President Biden did not specifically mention China, but his words echoed concerns about Beijing's growing influence in the region.
You know, it's a linchpin. The United States strongly supports the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific and the rules-based regional order.
President Biden pledged the U.S. would work with its allies to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific.
The Russian capital, Moscow, is to tighten COVID-19 restrictions after the country recorded more than 1,000 deaths in a single 24-hour period. An overnight curfew for hospitality businesses is to be introduced. And China has locked down an entire city of 4 million people because of just 6 cases of COVID-19. FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
The provincial capital of Gansu province, Lanzhou, has just 6 cases of coronavirus, but the entry and exit of residents is being strictly controlled and limited to essential supplies or medical emergencies. The latest outbreak nationally has reached 198 cases since October the 17th.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to weigh in, share your thoughts and opinions about what we've been discussing, or just change the subject and talk about whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And people are always asking whether or not we actually read the chats. I mean, some people do, some people don't. But if you really want to chat with us, you need to get on the Matrix server. You can find that at chat.freetalklive.com. That's the actual official chat server of Free Talk Live. And there you can't be kicked off or censored or anything like that because it's...
Well, you could, because each room can be created by other listeners and they can do whatever they want as far as administrating.
True, but they can't be
rooms.
kicked from the server unless, like, you or I do it.
It would be very difficult to kick somebody from the server. I mean, it could be done, but then you could just create another account. So what's the point? So yeah,
we ran into that with Discord.
Yeah, we've never done that ever on this server. So
no,
you don't have to worry about it.
Free to express your opinions at chat.freetalklive.com.
And my moderation theory is basically if you don't like somebody, just block them, because I don't feel like doing anything about it. Because we don't have to, because we run the server. We don't have to appease Discord anymore. We used to have these corporate masters that would say, oh, you have to enforce our community terms of whatever, nonsense. And now we don't have to do that.
And I mean, we sort of did. We had a toxic user room, but that was pretty much the extent of it. I don't think anyone ever actually got banned on the Discord server.
Yeah, but they still took us out because somebody got made fun of somewhere, and we didn't do anything about that apparently. So that was enough reason to take our entire server down.
So chat freely with us at chat.freetalklive.com. Sad news in the world today. Freedom is always dying around the globe, especially because of the COVID-19 pandemic, scamdemic, whatever you'd like to call it. But today, evidently, there were 150 arrests regarding stuff that was happening on the darknet. Ian, you have this story.
Yeah, sad news. There's another one of these darknet takedowns going on. This story coming from France24.com. There's a lot of variants on this out there.
It makes me especially sad that Ross Ulbricht is serving 2 life sentences for basically having one of these darknet websites, and the whole reason for that was to make an example out of him.
That's right.
So that no one else would even attempt it. And it didn't work.
No, there have been tons of them since Ross Ulbricht did his Silk Road back in 2011.
It would be nice if the government would realize that what they attempted to do by giving him 2 life sentences didn't work and just let the man out of prison.
Yeah, well, that would require them to actually be somewhat human or humane, and they are just not that. They don't care.
They are violent, power-hungry sociopaths who, you're absolutely right, just don't care that this man is wasting away in prison.
Yeah, he could be doing so much outside of prison. He could be creating all kinds of really cool things, and nope, we lost that person. He still gets to post to Twitter through some intermediary. I think it's his mom or his sister or somebody. He sends messages, so you can still follow him. I think it's Real Ross U, if I recall correctly, on Twitter. That may be his handle, so check him out. But yeah, here we are, a decade after the launch of the Silk Road. Underground darknet marketplace sites still exist. If you want to see links to the current ones, you can go to dark.fail. And they, will show you the current list of sites that are online still. But there have been some that have been taken down. And according to France 24, Operation Dark Huntor, spelled Huntor, also recovered millions of euros in cash and Bitcoin, as well as drugs and guns, in one of the largest ever stings targeting the dark web, according to Europol. The bust stems from a German-led police sting earlier this year, taking down what was supposedly the world's largest darknet marketplace. Dark Huntor was composed of a series of separate but complementary actions in Australia, Bulgaria, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and the United States. According to Europol, in the U.S. alone, police arrested 65 people. 47 were arrested in Germany, 24 in Britain, and then elsewhere.
The U.S. government was involved in this. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, this is a global targeting.
So they know firsthand that railroading Ross Ulbricht the way they did not solve the problem that they were hoping it would solve.
Of course they know that, yeah.
But they're not going to do anything about it because they're violent sociopaths.
Law enforcement also confiscated 26.7 million euros in cash and virtual currencies, as well as 45 guns and about 516 pounds of drugs, including 25,000 ecstasy pills. Italian police also shut down a couple other marketplaces.
That's sad.
It is.
25,000 ecstasy pills would have made a lot of people very happy and would have given them a lot better connectedness with other human beings.
Well, don't worry, Arya. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions more out there that they didn't take down.
Fair point.
Deep Sea and Berlusconi marketplaces have also been shut down by Italian police, which together boasted over 100,000 offerings of illegal products. According to Europol, Germany police closed down the Dark Market, not a very original name, but apparently that was the biggie earlier this year, used by its alleged operator in Australia to facilitate the sale of drugs, stolen credit card data, and malware. And then apparently what they did, now I don't think they covered in this story, but apparently that gave them some access to some information about sellers, and they actually went after the sellers. So normally when they take down a darknet marketplace, they just take the marketplace down and they arrest whatever administrators they can identify associated with it, and then that's usually the end of the story. But now the 150 people that they've arrested, the bulk of them appear to be actual dealers that were operating on these sites.
I seem to recall the last time the FBI attempted to do something, maybe not the last time, but it wasn't terribly long ago, the FBI tried doing something about one of these darknet sites. I don't remember what they were doing, but they ended up having to drop the charges because they didn't want to reveal the exploit that they had used to compromise the security of one of these sites.
Yeah, what you're referring to is when the FBI ran a very, very large child pornography website. So they busted the site.
That's what it was, yes.
Yeah, they busted the site, they took it over, and then proceeded to operate the site for a series of 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And they upgraded the server, by the way, for the site, so it was able to serve even more pornography than it had ever been able to serve under the FBI's tutelage. And then while they were running...
Thank goodness they're out there keeping people safe from child pornography by distributing
it,
child pornography.
Yeah, being the largest distributor probably in history of child pornography. So while they were running the site, they put some sort of an exploit on the site, which was then, I guess, activated on, I don't know what percentage of users. There's different settings for like privacy on Tor browsers, so I don't know if it hit them all or a fraction of them or whatever. But it hit some of them, and they went around and made a bunch of arrests, and one of those people... in a case in Washington State, if I recall correctly, he just had some government attorney, some kind of government defense attorney, and this defense attorney said, we have the right to see all the evidence in the case against us, so we'd like to see the evidence about exactly how this exploit worked. We want to know, what was the process, right? There needs to be a chain of evidence.
Yeah, showing how they identified the attorney's client, right?
Yeah, there needs to be, anytime the government collects evidence for a supposed crime, they need to have that chain of evidence. You need to be able to examine it. And so part of that chain of evidence is putting that hack or whatever on the website. What was it? How did it run? How did it operate? What was the programming language? Let's see the code. Let's see the source code of this thing. And the FBI went into the judge's chambers and said, we don't want to show this, Judge. And the judge said, well, you have to show it or you have to drop the charges.
And they chose to drop the charges.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm reading CBS News takedown of this article, and I find it very interesting.
Which article?
The
Darknets.
Their coverage of this incident. Of the hundreds of thousands of pills seized in the U.S. alone, 90% contain dangerous counterfeit opioids and narcotics.
What?
And then they go on to talk about some text
from this bust,
from the Dark Hunter bust.
Really?
So I'm thinking this is a monopoly takedown. They speak specifically of some Texans who were selling what they said were Adderall. But it was actually meth, and which I thought Adderall was meth.
Yeah, isn't that pretty much the same thing?
But it was counterfeit. They said it was Adderall, and they actually had the FDA's stamp on it. So this is a monopoly crackdown. These are the big companies taking these counterfeiters down.
That's worth talking about further in a moment.
What are your thoughts on all of this? It sounds like the pharmaceutical companies were upset that people were, selling meth
under the table
instead of letting them sell the meth. 603-283-6160.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to join us. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight is Arya, Conan, and Ian. And I would just like to remind everyone that even the U.S. Justice Department has admitted that the bulk of Bitcoin transactions, the overwhelming majority of Bitcoin transactions, are totally above the board, legal, not questionable, not illegal at all. But if you're curious about learning more about Bitcoin, go to bitcoin.com, click Getting Started at the top of the page. Take a few minutes out of your day to learn about this world-changing information. And if you already know about it, check out news.bitcoin.com to stay up to date on all of the news and headlines that are relevant to you. All of that and more on a sleek, easy-to-use modern website. Head on over there at bitcoin.com. We're talking about a dark web bust where they did, in fact, see some number of Bitcoins. They didn't say how much. They said, I think, 37 million, but that was also including fiat and cryptocurrency. It doesn't explicitly say how much cryptocurrency was seized.
No, it doesn't.
But Conan, you have this hypothesis going that this wasn't your average law enforcement takedown. This was orchestrated or requested by pharmaceutical companies.
Well, I think a lot of what was being sold was exactly what Big Pharma is selling.
Well, sure.
Except they have received FDA approval to do so.
Except in the case of ecstasy, Big Pharma's not selling that, and that's one of the reasons that it's so popular.
Not yet.
Big Pharma's also not selling psychedelic mushrooms and a bunch of the drugs on these sites. But can you do me a favor, Conan, and reread the claim about the false stuff that they claim to have found at these dealers' houses? Because what they did was they took down a bunch of dealers from darknet markets.
So here's some of the things that they were able to. Law enforcement agencies seized over $31.6 million in cash and virtual currencies. I don't know if that's all 31.6 or they're not even adding the virtual currencies. And approximately 234 kilograms of drugs worldwide, including amphetamines, cocaine, opioids, MDMA, during this whole 10-month-long operation. The Justice Department said investigators also collected more than 200,000 pills of ecstasy, fentanyl, oxycodone, hydrocodone, and methamphetamine. Of the hundreds of thousands of pills seized in just the U.S. alone, 90% contain dangerous counterfeit opioids and narcotics. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said Tuesday.
So it was like counterfeit oxycodone.
Yeah.
And counterfeit Adderall.
So the other 10% are the stuff like the ecstasy, probably.
Okay.
But
what they're doing here is they're being, of course, not entirely honest, I think, with what they're saying. They're trying to make it sound like, oh, you better watch out on the dark web. If you get something on the dark web, it's not going to be what they say it's going to be. It's going to be something dangerous.
That's overwhelmingly not true, though.
That's what shocked me when I heard that claim, because I'm like, no, because I know for a fact things that have been bought on the dark web, and now I'm not going to say that who it was that bought these things, but some people that I know have bought things on the dark web and have sent them to drug detection labs for a test to verify that it is indeed the thing that it was advertised as. And every time, whether it was MDMA or whether it was LSD, it was as advertised, exactly the chemical it said, with no adulterants. Nothing else was in it. It was exactly what was advertised. So the idea that they are finding these... Can you read just the phrase again about the dangerous part, where it says it's dangerous? Because the wording's really tricky.
You mean the 90% that they found?
Yeah, 90%.
Of the hundreds of thousands of pills seized in the U.S. alone, 90% contained dangerous counterfeit opioids and narcotics.
Yeah, so counterfeit is exactly what you thought they were talking about, Conan, where there's a certain brand name, right? So Adderall, that's a brand name. There's like some sort of a chemical name that Adderall is. I don't know offhand what that is, but Adderall's the brand. And so anyone that sells that same chemical,
a generic version of it,
is selling Adderall. They're just not selling the brand name of it. Now, maybe some of the there may be some dishonest seller on these websites that's selling quote-unquote Adderall with a fake stamp on it to make it look like it's a real Adderall pill, when in point of fact, it's still the same chemical behind Adderall, but it's not gotten from whatever corporation. Right. They didn't hold up a big rig with pallets full of Adderall, put a gun to the guy's head and steal the actual product from the pharmaceutical manufacturer. They made the same exact thing in their drug lab, their secret drug lab, and then made it look like Adderall. So yes, that's technically counterfeit, but it's probably the same exact thing, and that doesn't mean that it's dangerous. Right. It's as dangerous as taking Adderall, and so they're just totally trying to put a black mark on these darknet sites, and I don't buy it.
Of course they are, but the reason that darknet sites have always been so reliable, as I understand it, is because they have rating systems and stuff like that. You don't want to buy from someone who keeps killing their customers by lacing the heroin or whatever with fentanyl.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to kill your customer. That's the dumbest thing you'd ever want to do.
No, you want to get good reviews. Anytime you're selling something online, anyone who's ever sold on eBay or Amazon or wherever can tell you a negative review can destroy you, even if it's just one.
And all it takes is one customer who's willing to send the thing into drug detection labs, which if you go to ecstasydata.org, they will give you the instructions, and it's not just for ecstasy. I think they renamed the site. It's just that's how I remember to visit it. But they will test whatever drug you send them.
They won't give it back.
No,
so
they can't do that.
Don't send it all. Don't send them all of your stuff, but they will test it, and they will tell you the results. They won't tell you the strength, if I recall correctly, either. But they will tell you the...
That's right. That's because
it
the DEA prohibits them from giving you the actual milligram count of what's in it, but they will tell you what's in it.
Now, the one example that they brought up was this Texas crew, where they were selling what they allegedly...
It was counterfeit Adderall, but it was probably the very same chemical. It just wasn't actually produced by the company that would have made profits from them selling it.
Correct. And the craziest part about this, and chat room was quick to chime in, amphetamines they're different than methamphetamines.
Well, obviously. I mean, there are different words for a reason.
But they do the same exact thing. It's the same effects. The same dosage and whatnot. It's just methamphetamines, I guess, attack your brain. They get to your brain quicker.
There's some sort of chemical tweak that is different between them.
And it's Schedule 2, which is illegal, whereas Adderall, which is this same thing, completely legal.
Drugsdata.org. Well, just because it's completely legal doesn't mean it's not controlled, right? So Adderall is still a controlled substance.
Only certain companies can make the stuff.
And only doctors can, you can't just walk into Walgreens and walk out.
Well, these days you could, as far as getting a prescription,
that's what I'm saying.
You just call your doctor up on your
It's not that easy because they're being watched like a hawk by the DEA. A lot of doctors don't want to become what are called the pill shops or whatever, or the pill. They don't want to get the reputation for being known as the
Dr.
guy
Feel Good,
the guy who will just prescribe you whatever you want, because the DEA is constantly breathing down their necks about that. So,
meanwhile, they're just handing opioid prescriptions out left and right. Maybe not these days, but
so much
last year they were.
And I mean, not so much here in New Hampshire, as I understand it.
I thought we had it pretty bad, actually, according to the local newsboys.
Oh, really? I knew a friend who broke her arm or something, and they wouldn't give her anything beyond Tylenol 3.
The new site, by the way, is drugsdata.org. So if you go to ecstasydata.org, that's what it takes you to now. It's drugsdata.org. So if you are interested in, and this is something that everybody should do if you're, if you care about safety, if you're going to be using drugs, then you should care about whether or not you're actually using the thing that you think you're using. Because if you're not using the thing you think you're using, then you could be, taking some serious risks. And so take the time, if you're ordering more than one of these things, which usually you do on these darknet sites, a 10-pack or whatever, send one of them.
I can't imagine anyone going through the trouble of buying like one ecstasy pill on the darknet.
Seems unlikely. Send one of them with $100 to drugsdata.org. They'll test it usually within a few weeks. They put it up on their website. It's publicly viewable. So everybody can benefit from this because sometimes somebody goes and buys a whole bunch of these pills and then they go and they sell them in like a club or something, right? So if you get something in a club, you can still go to drugsdata.org and see, oh, look, somebody else got this same exact pill in the same geographic area at around the same time that you did.
Is this a private company that does this for people?
I don't know the details behind who runs drug detection labs.
And do you remain anonymous?
You do. They give you like a batch number or something like that you can use to look it up.
You give them the number, and then they just publish that, basically. Yeah, it's interesting. And that's how you can tell whether or not you actually are dealing with an honest person, which as you said, Aria, most of these dealers on these darknet sites have ratings.
Yeah, they have reputations to protect.
Yeah, and all you got to do to test their reputation is just test the drugs that they send you and then put that on their profile and say, hey, I tested this and here's what it was.
You're more likely to get something laced with something bad from your drug dealer in the streets than you're on the darknet. That is absolutely true.
100 times more likely.
603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Queen will not participate in the COP26 Climate Change Summit in person. Instead of travelling to Glasgow in Scotland, Buckingham Palace says the 95-year-old monarch will record a video message for the gathering instead. The news comes days after her doctors urged her to rest after she spent a night in hospital a week ago. Royal commentator Peter Hunt.
Well, I think it's a decision that she won't have taken lightly. I mean, this is a very important event for the British government. It would have been very important for them to have her there. The decision would have been made because they will have judged that her health isn't adequate enough to sustain her, because she would be standing at a reception. She was meant to be attending a major reception for world leaders, but she now won't be there in person. Instead, there will be a video recording of a message of her to the people attending.
Meanwhile, a UN climate report is warning that countries face disastrous temperature rises if they fail to strengthen climate ambitions. From FSN's Europe desk in Brussels, Lucy Hoff reports.
The report says current pledges only reduce carbon by about 7.5%, far less than the 45% cut that scientists say is needed to limit the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, as laid out in the 2015 Paris Climate Accords. There are currently predictions of a temperature rise of 2.7 degrees, which the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has said would come with disastrous consequences.
US President Joe Biden has announced more than $100 million to support Southeast Asia in the face of growing Chinese influence. He made the pledge at the start of a yearly meeting of leaders from ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. From FSN's bureau in Washington, Kate Fisher reports.
The White House said the $102 million will help to pay for things like tackling COVID-19, climate measures, economic initiatives and education. President Biden did not specifically mention China, but his words echoed concerns about Beijing's growing influence in the region.
You know, it's a linchpin. And the United States strongly supports the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific and the rules-based regional order.
President Biden pledged the US would work with its allies to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific.
The Russian capital Moscow is to tighten COVID-19 restrictions after the country recorded more than 1,000 deaths in a single 24-hour period. An overnight curfew for hospitality businesses is to be introduced. And China has locked down an entire city of 4 million people because of just 6 cases of COVID-19. FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
The provincial capital of Gansu province, Lanzhou, has just 6 cases of coronavirus, but the entry and exit of residents is being strictly controlled and limited to essential supplies or medical emergencies. The latest outbreak nationally has reached 198 cases since October the 17th.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at a debate over arts funding in Britain that is being mirrored in many other parts of the world. The UK government is planning to make it harder for young people to study the arts at university, proposing to emphasise instead student loans for courses focused on STEM degrees. But the proposals are generating controversy, cited as another attack on a sector of the economy that is vital to Britain's standing around the world. Professor Anne Carlisle is Vice-Chancellor of Falmouth University, which focuses predominantly on creative arts degrees.
Sometimes the arts don't help themselves by kind of categorising themselves as the arts. Creativity, without exception, is acknowledged as being one of the most important skills for the future economy. And it's a skill that obviously just doesn't belong to the arts, but it is very embedded in the arts because the way in which we problem solve, the way we create, the way we innovate is so valuable. So today, increasingly, what you get are artists working with engineers, with technologists, with scientists. Sadly, that just isn't understood.
She argues that governments should stop thinking about individual discrete subjects of study and instead recognise that creativity is central to innovative thinking across all disciplines. The main news again, the Queen will not participate in the COP26 climate summit in person, but will deliver a video message instead. US President Joe Biden has pledged more than $100 million to support Southeast Asia in the face of growing Chinese influence. And the Russian capital Moscow is to tighten COVID-19 restrictions after the country recorded more than 1,000 deaths over a 24-hour period. There's more from us on Twitter @Feature Story. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
George W. Bush may be retired from politics, but he's keeping busy with his new hobby of painting. Today, the Picasso-in-chief tweeted his latest picture, a turkey sandwich and glass of lemonade in front of the ghost of the Iraqi child that follows him everywhere. Rebecca Mira has been following the flourishing art career. He's pretty good, Rebecca.
Yeah, well, Rachel, Bush doesn't claim to be a great artist, but as he put it, not bad for an old man, huh?
Not bad at all. He says he likes painting simple things he sees in everyday life, like his dogs, that dead Iraqi child. You can see that Bush's art is improving over time. If you take a look, at first he could barely draw the Iraqi child's transparent hands, but now they look much more realistic.
Much more. I'm not surprised that he's getting better. Bush practices constantly.
And Laura Bush says he's more focused than ever, locks himself away for hours at a time, and won't talk to anyone while he's painting.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if history will look back on Bush as a politician or the next Rembrandt. Up next, a study found that drinking red wine once a day can help the body get hammered.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, where you can take control of the airwaves. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to weigh in on what we've been talking about, which is just generally how darknet drug markets save lives.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's
and they compete with the big boys.
They do, and they do it very well. And of course, this is not a surprise to anyone who leans libertarian. We've seen this over and over. Legalizing drugs so that these sorts of markets can exist openly saves people's lives. We saw the same thing with Backpage, I think was the name of it, basically a prostitution website, which saved people's lives because it offered them the same sort of thing where
they arrested them.
They could not arrest people. They could rate people and, get a feel for them and find out whether or not they wanted to
go back.
Yes. And it saved people's lives. So obviously, yes, the people who are running Backpage got arrested, and I imagine a lot of the people working, contractors, whatever they would be called, also were arrested.
By the way, judge declared mistrial at the Backpage.com trial.
Oh, really?
Yep.
How recent was that?
September.
Okay. I'd like to get into that at some point because I haven't heard that. But before we do, let's get to the phones. We have Derek calling from Erie, Pennsylvania. Derek, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, what's on your mind?
I heard your show the other day about the CanaSense website, with their CEO.
Yeah.
I had trouble, registering on the site. It's saying that I needed a sponsor, and I didn't know if you guys know anything about that or not, or.
Yeah, there was a link posted to the Free Talk Live social media accounts on that very night. So if you go back to Saturday, if you look at social.freetalklive.com and find the Free Talk Live profile there, you can find that link.
So basically, you have to have a sponsor, but with that link, you don't have to have a sponsor?
I think that is the sponsor link. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I didn't know you had to have a sponsor. That's news to me.
I haven't looked into it because I don't.
Red and.
I don't do cannabis, so I haven't looked into it. So.
They're doing psychedelic mushrooms now too.
I had heard that,
but very interesting.
I have not looked into it. I don't have permission to use CanaSense.com, but
right. I don't think they're going to give it to you either.
It doesn't seem like it would be very likely, but one never knows. So yeah, I don't know anything about how the site works or what if you need a sponsor or whatever, but. As Ian said, head on over to social.freetalklive.com, look us up there, and you'll find a link to it.
Yep.
Was that your only question tonight, Derek?
That's it.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for the call. We also have Dave calling from New Hampshire of RidleyReport.com. Dave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, folks. I have an update on one of the people who was arrested at the infamous Executive Council meeting in mid-October.
This is the meeting where the Executive Council voted 4-1 to deny $27 million in COVID bribe money from the federal government, and 9 people were arrested at that meeting. Peaceful protesters were arrested.
I smile every time I hear about them voting 4-1 to say, no, we don't want this dirty money from the federal government.
I smile every time Sununu basically has been flipping out on the opposition, calling them retards and calling them,
Did he really?
Flat earthers and tinfoil hat wearers. It's like, you're crazy not to take this money. And I'm like, no, they know what's up.
They know the right thing.
They know there's strings attached.
Did he use the word retards?
I think he said flat tinfoil hat wearers, but
okay. That would be unfortunate because I got suspended from Twitter temporarily for calling him a fag repeatedly. So if he was going to be throwing that word around,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
So what's the update?
One individual, Ridley.
So Grinnell was one of the 9 arrested at the governor's meeting. She was just sitting there and she was arrested. Maybe they were arresting her for some previous outstanding warrant or something. But
that's the claim, yeah.
To the public, of course, they see the video and it's going to look like, okay, they're just arresting people for sitting there, basically. Anyway, so I listened more in depth to her report on what happened to her. She did an in-depth interview with someone, and she had indicated that apparently a cop apologized to her for the arrest long before it happened.
What do you mean?
Like before the meeting, or?
Like he was like, we're sorry for what we're going to do to you later?
Well, yeah, she was outside trying to get some of the demonstrators to do something that the police wanted them to do. And they were like clear a fire lane or something like that. And she said a policeman came up to her and thanked her for what she did and then apologized to her.
Huh.
And she didn't know why he was apologizing, and then suddenly she was in jail.
So he had like a guilty conscience, and because we know this was an orchestrated event.
Oh yeah,
they were already
they were
already in the wings, ready to charge in as soon as Sununu gave them the go ahead.
Yep.
This Sununu, what's interesting about this, though, I remember you guys were criticizing her, maybe not necessarily her personally, but some of the people for kind of praising the police or being really nice to them or whatnot. And I wanted to give an historical precedent. This is a key tactic of the Serbian resistors in 1999 and 2000 who were successful at stopping the Balkan Wars and overthrowing Slobodan Milosevic without firing a shot or throwing a punch. They had a policy of praising the police who were arresting them. So this was part of their training. They would just say, oh, yes, we know you're just doing your job. Yeah, it's really terrible. You have to be forced to do this stuff. And really quickly, right, you started getting to a point where there was an incident where one of the cops, arrested someone almost on direct orders from the president. And later that day, he got a call from his wife. Did you arrest so-and-so? She's like, you're not coming home tonight if you arrested so-and-so because he's a good kid. He's always nice. And so the idea of actually being nice to the police, I'm not sure I want to praise them for doing something terrible, but the nicer you can be to them, and I don't always get this perfect either, but the nicer you can be to them, the more of these cops you will create who were apologizing to Teresa and to Therese. And the more
I see your point, but man, it's a difficult pill to swallow. I mean, certainly shouting, shouting at them and calling. Certainly,
you got to try to be the good guy.
Yeah, but I mean, yelling at them and calling them Nazis isn't going to make them stop doing what they're doing. You're right about that.
Yeah, that doesn't help. It can make a video more dramatic and get seen by more people. But basically, I just wanted to outline that there is a historical precedent that these demonstrators did instinctively follow, whether for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. And we shouldn't throw out the idea of winning the police over.
Okay, so I'm listening to your story, David, and maybe I'm understanding it a little better after kind of rolling it over in my mind for a moment. What you were saying was the policeman in Bosnia or whatever, Serbia, the policeman's wife that was mad at him, she didn't actually know the person who he had arrested. She just sort of knew of him as being a nice person.
I think they were in the same. It was all in the same town. He was ordered to arrest. He had been putting off arresting some people in his town because he knew they weren't really doing anything wrong. Because they would do these cute little publicity stunts. They were a lot of fun. These poor people in Serbia.
But I mean, he did ultimately arrest the kid, right?
Yeah, so he arrested him, and his wife wouldn't let him come home. So
but is the theory that his wife? I'm sorry, just to clarify, is the theory that his wife was aware that he was always very nice because she knew him personally, or that she just sort of knew of him as being a nice person because that's what people said about him because he was nice to the cops? I mean, it seems like a bit of a disconnect to say that him being nice to police in the past would have, gotten to the cop's wife. But is that what's being said here?
They knew each other. She knew the kids.
Then that's
arrested.
Different, then, right? Than just being nice to the cops.
Maybe so, but still, the point remains that Otpor had a policy of getting its activists to really,
Yeah, but the police still arrested. Yeah, I'm starting to come around with you. The police still arrested this kid.
I think the police need to be shamed for what they're doing, and I think they need to be shamed by a large number of people, because ultimately that's what his wife did to him. His wife shamed him. She said, "You shouldn't have arrested this kid. I knew him. He was a good kid." And if enough people start treating the police like the thugs that they're behaving, then maybe they'll get it through their heads that not everybody likes them.
And I think they are starting to get it through their heads with all the Black Lives Matter rallies and things like that, with police resigning because they're like, hey, look, we don't want to have this reputation anymore. We don't want to do it.
Even before Black Lives Matter, it was hard for police departments to hire new cops.
What do you think? 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com. Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The easiest thing in the world for a reader to do is to stop reading, according to the late, great Barney Kilgore, who became managing editor of the Wall Street Journal in 1941 and grew the paper's circulation from 33,000 to 1 million by the 60s. And he'd be pleased to know that his paper is one of the few that people now pay to read online. Someone else pre-internet who realized that attention is fragile? Motown Records founder Berry Gordy. In the early 60s, when his label dominated the charts, he'd bring a dozen real people into the Hitsville, USA studios and audition songs. And he'd ask, if you were down to your last dollar, would you spend it on this record or would you buy a sandwich? Today, attention span seems like an oxymoron. For tips on cutting through the clutter, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Yeah!
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to join us. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Arya.
Tian.
And Conan.
And last year, we told you about Intercoin, which can help any business or organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. Now, Intercoin.org has launched worldwide, so if there's a token you want to launch or an app you want to build, go to Intercoin.org, enter your email, and the team will get in touch with you and learn about your needs. And while you're there, if you want, get some of the Intercoin investor tokens for yourself at intercoin.org, I-N-T-E-R coin.org. Let's keep going with the phones. We have Bad Slave calling from New Hampshire. Bad Slave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Well, thank you very much.
What's on your mind tonight?
Well, just real quickly, I want to say Mark is still out there promoting someone moving other than to the Free State Project, and he's doing it so regularly, it's ridiculous.
Where are you seeing him doing this?
Well, he's not doing it on Free Talk Live.
It's playing on this feed here, so I don't know. I'm here.
Is it the Free Private Cities ad?
Oh, the Free Private Cities ad. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's promoting people for freedom to move somewhere else than New Hampshire.
Look, I'm not going to promote New Hampshire as the one-size-fits-all approach for someone who wants to achieve liberty in our lifetime. If someone wants to try an alternative, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, good for them.
I think New Hampshire, the Free State Project, is the most successful and the most likely to succeed. But if that just doesn't inspire someone, but if that doesn't inspire someone, then they should be. If that doesn't inspire someone, then they should be allowed to hear the alternatives. Maybe something will inspire them.
Yeah, maybe one of those alternatives will actually take off. Who knows?
Well, I doubt it. There's so many reasons that it won't work.
That's what they said about New Hampshire.
Well, exactly. But they're starting from scratch.
So did the Free State Project.
No, not really. New Hampshire was already a good starting place. There was a reason why New Hampshire was chosen, which was because it was arguably the freest of all the 50 states.
No,
it has 101. There's 101 reasons why New Hampshire was chosen. You can go to 101reasonsfilm.com. You can watch a great little documentary film about it. There's a text version of that as well. Very, very persuasive that it was a good starting point.
Well, no, I agree. I'm not saying that we didn't have a good start. I'm saying
I didn't say you were saying that.
Nobody else has a good start. I mean, that's my point. Is that these things are going to. Did Mark ever encourage a free space operation in New Hampshire?
I mean, he spent years here on Free Talk Live advocating for people to move to New Hampshire.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's burned out, Bad Slave. I mean, it's just the reality. We've lost a lot of people over the years, and Mark, unfortunately, is one of them. And it had the people who'd left New Hampshire to pursue whatever it was in their life that brought them away from New Hampshire, whether it be, taking care of a sick elderly family member or wanting to just go in a different direction in their life. If those people had stayed, we'd probably have, more than 50% more people here. There's a lot of people who sadly were really talented that decided they were going to leave. Now maybe some of them will come back someday. They'll realize that things are better here now and better than anywhere else on the planet by far. I think that's clearly true.
He's delusional. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done with Mark.
Okay.
I want to talk about Penn Jillette.
Another sad story.
He's not coming here.
Know something about it. His daughter Moxie decided that she's a boy.
Oh.
And
how old is she?
So what you meant was his son Moxie decided that he was a boy.
Huh?
I just looked. Moxie Crime Fighter is her middle name. Anyway,
Crime Fighter is his middle name.
His middle name, I guess. Now, I don't know.
Who gives their kid a middle name like Crime Fighter?
Penn Jillette.
Penn Jillette, yeah, right.
Okay, so he's got a trans kid.
He lived in a prison for a while. I don't know if you knew that.
Penn did?
He bought a prison property, and he,
weird,
gussied it up, of course. But
so Ian had asked how old Moxie is.
I just looked it up. She's in her teenage years.
It says teenage. This article is in Taki Mag.
Okay.
Why is this relevant, though? I mean,
does
who cares?
Does this bother you?
Well, I mean, the thing is that he's completely abandoned libertarianism.
Well, why does what his daughter did have anything to do with that? I mean, it's true, he has abandoned libertarianism, but whether or not he's abandoned libertarianism seems to have no bearing whatsoever on what his daughter has chosen.
Well, it's all part of the same transition he's going into.
I don't agree.
People are saying he's gone vegan, so he's I don't know, it's changed his brain or something like that. I mean,
he's been drinking the water.
I don't know what happened though, Bad Slave, but Teller also switched to a Democrat in the 2020 election, and both Penn and Teller endorsed Joe Biden, and that was when I found out about all this, and was just like a real shock because
Penn put out that stupid little message about how we have to choose love and togetherness or whatever it was.
Somehow
that he said.
Biden stands for either of those things, and it was ridiculous. Right. So I mean, focus on the real issue here, and that is that Penn Jillette, supposed libertarian, has lost his way, has lost his libertarianism. Not what his kid decides that she or he wants to do.
I think that the kid changing trans has changed. It was the impetus for all this change.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh no, I understand. Hold on, Bad Slave. I will explain it. Penn's trans son corrupted him into liberalism the same way that I turned you into a liberal, and that Bonnie turned you into a liberal.
Wait, you're a liberal now?
What? No, of course he's not, but that's what people have said, right?
Hey, did you turn your dad into a liberal?
No.
Ian's not a liberal. He's controlled opposition. You didn't hear?
So wait, you didn't turn your family into liberals when you went and changed your...
Did not.
And have you seen Ian's hair tonight?
That's liberal.
Totally liberal. Yeah. He's totally woke.
So that's essentially what you're saying, Bad Slave, right? I certainly don't agree. Thank you so much for the call tonight.
That's ridiculous.
By the way, I know you guys have been trying to get me to go watch a movie with you.
Now we're not allowed to watch movies, apparently.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, no, I'm not going out with Ian in any movies until that hair grows back.
What, did you think I'll look like your boyfriend or something?
No, because you look like the guy from the shooter kid.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
What was it, Seattle?
No, Colorado.
The Dark Knight.
Aurora, Colorado.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, maybe if there's another new movie, we may be able to go see one again or something.
Dune is out right now, and I can't watch any of the reviews.
I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, everyone's saying.
Have you gone to see it?
Nope.
603-283-6160 if you want to join us. I'd also rather just like to focus on Penn's politics instead of whatever his family's getting up to. But what do you think? 603-283-6160.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Queen will not participate in the COP26 climate change summit in person. Instead of travelling to Glasgow in Scotland, Buckingham Palace says the 95-year-old monarch will record a video message for the gathering instead. The news comes days after her doctors urged her to rest after she spent a night in hospital a week ago. Royal commentator Peter Hunt.
Well, I think it's a decision that she won't have taken lightly. I mean, this is a very important event for the British government. It would have been very important for them to have her there. The decision would have been made because they will have judged that her health isn't adequate enough to sustain her, because she would be standing at a reception. She was meant to be attending a major reception for world leaders, but she now won't be there in person. Instead, there will be a video recording of a message of her to the people attending.
Meanwhile, a UN climate report is warning that countries face disastrous temperature rises if they fail to strengthen climate ambitions. From FSN's Europe desk in Brussels, Lucy Hoff reports.
The report says current pledges only reduce carbon by about 7.5%, far less than the 45% cut that scientists say is needed to limit the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, as laid out in the 2015 Paris Climate Accords. There are currently predictions of a temperature rise of 2.7 degrees, which the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has said would come with disastrous consequences.
US President Joe Biden has announced more than $100 million to support Southeast Asia in the face of growing Chinese influence. He made the pledge at the start of a yearly meeting of leaders from ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. From FSN's bureau in Washington, Kate Fisher reports.
The White House said the $102 million will help to pay for things like tackling COVID-19, climate measures, economic initiatives and education. President Biden did not specifically mention China, but his words echoed concerns about Beijing's growing influence in the region.
You know, it's a linchpin, and the United States strongly supports the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific and the rules-based regional order.
President Biden pledged the US would work with its allies to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific.
The Russian capital, Moscow, is to tighten COVID-19 restrictions after the country recorded more than 1,000 deaths in a single 24-hour period. An overnight curfew for hospitality businesses is to be introduced. And China has locked down an entire city of 4 million people because of just 6 cases of COVID-19. FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
The provincial capital of Gansu province, Lanzhou, has just 6 cases of coronavirus, but the entry and exit of residents is being strictly controlled and limited to essential supplies or medical emergencies. The latest outbreak nationally has reached 198 cases since October the 17th.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, where your calls and thoughts are welcome. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to weigh in. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight is Aria, Conan, and Ian. And I don't think any of us here are particularly fans of Noam Chomsky. I don't know a whole lot about him.
He's got a good anti-war stance.
That's about all you can say about him.
And that's it.
He's otherwise pretty much a commie, right?
He
claims,
I
always understood him to be an anarcho-syndicalist.
He claims that, and he also claims libertarian socialist, whatever the hell that is.
It's an anarcho-communist, is what that is. And
correct.
I used to argue with libertarian socialists about this because when they describe it, it's just anarcho-communism.
Yeah, and syndicalism is where you basically the workers unite and they take over the economy,
it's ruled by unions,
correct.
Right? And it's not anarchy at all. It's controlled by unions.
Yeah, so anti-war, that's about all he's got going. But yeah, he's back in the news today. He has come out with his opinion, and this is really a lot of the far left's opinion on what to do with those nasty, leper, unvaccinated, MAGA hat-wearing losers. And here's his take. Philosopher Noam Chomsky argued,
I have never worn a MAGA hat in my life.
Well,
me neither.
They usually the unvaccinated are thrown into the MAGA camp, even though we all here have never. I don't even know any. Not even my dad. My dad voted Trump, but he would never wear a red MAGA hat. So I don't know that I don't even know anybody who wears this nonsense. But anyways,
I don't think I do either.
Vincent. He
Oh,
used to wear
really?
a MAGA hat.
Sincerely?
Or is he trolling?
Hard to say.
Wearing one because you're trolling is different from wearing one sincerely. Or wearing one, I guess if he's just trying to get a reaction from people, that is by definition trolling.
That's a good way to get a reaction these days. Noam Chomsky argued that those who remain unvaccinated should be segregated, saying that obtaining food after they had the decency to remove themselves from the community was their problem.
Yeah, these people really do hate unvaccinated people.
I'm okay with, having to buy food directly from the farmers who almost certainly are not vaccinated themselves.
We're going to get to that argument because he's talking, he brings this up like, we're going to have all the food, we're going to have all the stuff, and you lepers can go over to the corner over there and you can just deal with it. Except what he doesn't realize,
the truck drivers, the people working,
the farmers, the workers, they're all unvaccinated MAGA people. They're not, so they're holding the cards, man.
Well, certainly not all of them, but quite a few of them, certainly. I mean, think about your average truck driver. He's not a Bernie supporter, man.
No, he's not. He's not. After the left-wing linguist was asked what separation of the unvaccinated would look like on a practical level, Chomsky said the unvaccinated should remove themselves from the community.
Hey, I would love to. Look,
if we
could just come to New Hampshire and remove ourselves from the community that is the United States, and then we can have our little unvaccinated paradise here. I got to say, I'm with Noam Chomsky on this one so far.
Yeah.
Will they let us? Will they let us actually remove ourselves from society?
You can't leave the plantation. And if you do leave the plantation, you just go right to another one, the next door plantation. So we should remove ourselves from the community for the safety of others and make arrangements to get food without coming in contact with others. Quote, how can we get food to them? Chomsky told YouTube's Primo Radical on Sunday. Well, that's actually their problem. Chomsky, 92, compared people who do not want to get vaccinated to those who do not want to stop at red lights in traffic, saying that if people treasure...
I really don't want to stop at red lights in traffic.
If there's no traffic, I'm not inclined to stop.
That's a good way to look at it.
I will usually stop long enough to make sure that there's no one coming. And
no cops around.
Yeah, and that too.
So he compares
It's
them
just
to...
like walking across the street, here in Keene, a lot of people wait for the stupid light to come on,
Even
indicating they can walk even though there's no traffic.
And they push the button anyways. No traffic, they push the button.
I hate it when they do that, because then you have to wait for the light, even though they've already crossed.
Yes, they need to remove those things for sure. I am in total agreement with that.
Well, they're useful during the day when there's a lot of traffic and a lot of people walking around, but at nighttime, just
walk.
Just go.
Just go. Just stop pushing the button. So yes, he compares them to people who don't stop at traffic lights, saying that if people treasure their liberty so much, they should find a way to protect it and secure it for themselves.
I'm still agreeing here. Seceding from the United States.
The linguist's remarks were met with mixed reactions on Twitter, with some supporting his calls from the unvaccinated to be isolated. Some blue checkmark says Noam Chomsky is trending because he wants to get tough on people who choose to stay unvaccinated. Good for him.
Tough as in throwing them into camps, though.
Yeah, yes, that's where it's leading.
Right.
And the most surprising part about this is, guess who Noam Chomsky is? He's the son of two Jewish immigrants. You think
he would know
if
better.
anybody, he would know better. But he's actually asking for it. He's calling for it, because what happens when these people don't self-isolate? What happens when they do want to go out and buy food from the farmer's market, and supposedly one of Noam's buddies, what his buddies is there?
What happens if they don't voluntarily move to the ghetto that you told them they should move to?
What happens if they don't put the star on their chest so that you can...
No. The star is for the people who are vaccinated.
No. We've talked about this. It'll start like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the star wearers be like, wait a minute. Why are we wearing the stars? We outnumber these people.
Well, the stars
they should
it won't
be
ever
wearing.
change.
I have to buy a special star and sew it on. No. The lepers should do all that.
No, see, that's not the way it is. The star makes them feel good about themselves, like they've done something good, and
like a merit badge.
Yes, and your lack of a star makes you bad because you didn't do something good. So they love the star.
They've reversed the plot, basically.
Right.
See, it's not like Nazi Germany. It's different.
Not yet.
It's different.
It's different. It's different this time.
This time when they're talking about people self-isolating from the rest of society, they would never actually go through with it.
No, not this time. This time it'll be good. It'll be better this time.
Absolutely.
Build back better.
And they would never actually go through with a vaccine mandate telling people, hey, look, You can't go to restaurants. You can't go to grocery stores. You can't go to bars. You can't go to any of these places. And if you do, you're going to get treated like a second-class citizen if you don't have this vaccination card. They would never actually do that, like we talked about more than a year ago here on Free Talk Live.
Nope.
By the way, the obedient are very, very excited. The FDA panel has apparently approved vaccinations for kids from 5 to 11 years old. So that's going to move on to the CDC and then possibly for full approval from the FDA. It's very, very, very exciting for these obedient people. They're ready to get their kids all jacked up on a vaccine.
You mean that FDA-approved vaccine it's not even on the market yet? It's still the old one. Comirnaty isn't even out yet.
Yeah.
So by the way, if any workers out there, their bosses are threatening you, all you got to say is it hasn't been approved yet. Oh yes, it has been approved. No, actually, it hasn't been approved. Comirnaty has been approved.
Well, there isn't even a mandate yet. And there's talk about them pushing it back until after the holidays because they don't want to make the worker shortage even worse.
Yeah, how do you like that?
Before the holidays.
Yeah, the business sector has come out and be like, let's just hold off a second. We're fourth quarter right now. This is when we make our money for the rest of the year. This is how we survive. If you do this to us now in the next 2 months, it's going to be bad.
It's going to be bad either way. So
others accused him of being a socialist and slammed him as an overrated, babbling, authoritarian mess.
See, I don't think accusing someone of being a socialist should be an insult. They insult him by pointing out that he's a sociopath who was just talking about segregating some 20%-ish of the population.
It's more than that.
And making them fend for themselves about how they were going to actually survive.
It's like over 40% who are not fully vaccinated. And when you consider the boosters and those coming down, I think it's going to be 50-50.
Speaking of the CDC, today they approved a fourth booster shot for people who are highly at risk. I don't remember exactly what terminology they used.
Oh, you mean like Colin Powell?
I don't know.
Yeah, let's just get all the sickly old people to take this thing. This is exactly what they want, man. Get these people off the books. Get these tax this meat.
I just don't see it that way. They're just funneling as much money as they can to Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson.
And getting rid of old people, which are just sucking it down. They're not helping the economy. The Ponzi scheme doesn't need old people.
I tend to think Colin Powell probably wasn't unwealthy. He was probably contributing to the economy. It's hard to be
an 80-year-old. Nah, he was in
he surely had money though.
He had health problems.
Yeah, but he was paying his bills, right? You would think. But what are your thoughts? Maybe I'm wrong. 603-283-6160. There's more coming up about what this psychopath thinks should be done to unvaccinated people. 603-283-6160.
Free Talk Live.
Some old codger Republican is screaming at his radio.
This is not a democracy.
Yeah,
we don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic.
And to that guy, just take a deep breath. Tell me the operative difference between a democracy and a republic.
Well, we elect representatives in a republic.
That's true.
And you respect rights.
A direct democracy certainly is a democracy where everybody gets a vote. But tell me about this respecting rights thing. What other republic, in fact, respects rights?
The People's Republic of China.
Right. So this idea that we live in a republic is really just fallacious. It's just some term that someone's come up with. In Greek, democracy means of the people. Republic in Latin means for the people or something.
Don't forget the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. That's a republic.
Right. There's another republic. I mean, republics are all over. Take a pill. Republic means nothing.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can call in, talk about whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And we're talking about Noam Chomsky here, who is 92 years old and clearly losing his sanity. He's arguing basically that people who are not vaccinated should self-isolate from society.
Well, you know, old people and children and drunk people all speak the truth. So my question is he getting old and senile and just babbling, or is this how he's always felt, which I believe that it is?
He's always been a leftist.
And he's just speaking his mind the way that he's always felt, but he's been holding back.
I don't think he's losing anything. He's always been a hard leftist, so it's the leftists who, by and large, are the majority of the supporters of this, COVID madness, crackdown, medical authoritarian state. So this isn't a surprise at all. I don't think it would have mattered if he were 92, 62, or 42.
And he has always argued about the community. And what do you do?
Yeah, because that's how the liberals justify all of their belief system, but it's for the greater good. You got to crack some eggs to make an omelet, and I absolutely hate that, because if you ask 100 different people, you will find at least one person who you are the egg that they want to crack to make their perfect little paradise.
But this does bring up a good question. How would we handle it? Now, I know how I would handle COVID-19. I would just stay home that day, and then I'll, maybe even a couple of days, and, not to come in and get my coworkers sick.
You mean if you caught it?
If I caught it, yeah. I mean, there are ways to handle it, but that's just a cold. That's what this is. Now, what if it was actually something like, like smallpox, which can be devastating. I think like 30% of people who got it were actually succumbing to it, and not to mention being horribly scarred, and some people even blinded from this ailment. Which that's a real situation. Now, how would we handle someone with smallpox in our community? Would we insist differently? Would we insist that they self-isolate?
Look, if there were bodies piling in the street, then certainly, and there was a vaccine for the thing that was killing people, I would not have the same, no, I'm not taking that vaccine approach that I have to COVID-19.
Correct. You would weigh the options. You would be like, what are my risks of just trucking on through?
Yeah, I'd be like, I drove to the studio today and I bypassed, 14 dead bodies in the streets of 30-year-olds. I'm going to take this vaccine.
The Noam Chomskys of the world, that's how they're treating this. They're like, people are dying like flies from this nonsense.
It's insane.
But see, I had COVID-19 and I went about my life just like normal. I realized a lot of people are like, oh my God, you probably got so many people sick. I got 0 people sick when I had COVID-19.
Yeah.
Working here and working at my other job.
So I think the problem with this argument, I think he's right on a certain level if it was actually a real pandemic.
Even if it was a real
people
pandemic,
were dying in the streets.
I couldn't possibly be like, hey, you people who don't want to get vaccinated, you have to self-isolate. Even if it was a real pandemic, man.
And starve because because that's your problem. I don't care how you get food. It's your problem.
Yeah,
don't.
I still wouldn't say that.
That's what he said, though.
I know, but I'm saying even if it was a real pandemic with bodies piling in the streets, I wouldn't tell people, hey, look, if you don't want to get vaccinated, you have to stay away from the rest of society and figure out how to get your own food.
Yeah, well, he's not. I'm sorry, I don't buy it that he's saying, oh, it's self-isolation. No, that's going to be enforced.
Yes,
because
it has to be.
Yeah, none of these
he's not going to say that. He didn't say that. Yeah. But that's how it has to happen.
Right.
Otherwise, people aren't going to follow the rules. They're not going to stop at the stupid stoplight. They're going to go right on through when there's no one there, just like we all do.
Well, it's certainly true that the Jewish people in Nazi Germany did not voluntarily move to the ghettos
or put the stars on or get in those cattle cars.
Right.
And it was all cumulative. That's how it happened. First, you went to the ghettos. Then you had to wear the stars. Then what was it? Even weren't they disease ridden? Wasn't that the claim that was going around? We have to get these people out of the city because they're full of disease, and
lice and stuff. And it was because they were all crammed in these unsanitary ghettos. Yeah.
So now we got to get them out of the city. Get in the cattle cars. You're going to a better home. You better go to a better place. And they all just did it.
I hate comparing the treatment of the unvaccinated people for COVID-19 to how the Nazis treated the Jews, but at a certain point, you have to recognize history and realize that, yeah, it actually did start with little stuff like this, and it continued getting worse and worse gradually.
Dehumanization.
Over a 20-year period until there was a Holocaust.
That's where this is going. Division, and before you know it, you're actually executing members of your community, of your society, that have been dehumanized over years.
And it's working with not everyone an alarming number, even if it's just one person on Twitter saying, hey, Noam Chomsky's onto something here, that's one too many people.
Well,
so it's way more than one.
Good news. I have 2 tweets of people who don't agree with Noam. Sonia Polton, blue check, says, Noam Chomsky once had a fine mind. Now he's an overrated, babbling authoritarian mess. Isolate the unvaccinated from society? What about stop listening to academics who are well past their best, if he was ever best? Dave Rubin, blue check mark, Chomsky is a truly disgusting human being.
Wow.
Alternate tweet, pathetic old socialist reveals evil nature which lays just beneath every oh-so-tolerant progressive.
Yeah,
and he's right.
Well, I'm sure
they're showing their true colors.
I'm sure they can find plenty of right-wing people, conservatives who condemn this sort of thinking. But how many people on the left are actually saying, "Hey, you know what? That's too far." That's what I would be curious. Those are the people I want to hear from. The blue checkmark people who are like, "Hey, look, man, I'm with you. I'm anarcho-syndicalism all the way, but what you're talking about here, I'm not okay with that."
Well, like we said, he didn't actually say forced isolation. He never went that far. We know that's where it's going to lead.
Oh, yeah.
But his leftist buddies who are like, they're not going to come. No, they've come out in defense of him because he hasn't actually gone there yet. He didn't say cattle cars yet, but that's where it's going. Chomsky's remarks on segregating the unvaccinated come after a growing number of businesses are requiring their workers to get vaccinated. About 1,900 state workers in Washington, the state of Washington, reportedly either resigned or were fired by October 19. And Northwell Health in New York fired 1,400 employees on October 4 for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine.
Now, this is an interesting side effect of what's been going on with these mandates is like government workers are actually losing their jobs. You know how hard it is to fire a government worker? You can actually, if they're actually getting rid of all these government workers, then that's good news. But of course, the bad news is they're probably going to try to hire a bunch more to replace them. But if this actually resulted in government's payrolls getting smaller by, 25%, I mean, I can't complain about that.
Yeah, government workers, but healthcare workers?
Yeah, that's not good.
That's where we're going to have real issue in the next couple of years. Now we're all right.
You definitely want to fire healthcare workers during a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly the best approach.
While the left-wing philosopher has made headlines in the past for controversial remarks such as for calling for reparations for black people, he also signed an anti-cancel culture letter in July 2020 warning of an intolerant climate on all sides. I'm not familiar with that one. But, Noam.
Apparently he's okay with an intolerant climate now.
Yeah,
that's how it's always been with people, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to tolerate people who aren't tolerant because they don't understand what the word tolerant means. To them, they think tolerance means accepting. If you don't accept someone 100%, then you're being intolerant. But
tolerance means allowing.
Yes, it just means not stopping it. Like, I tolerate my dog chewing on pieces of wood because I know that means she's not destroying something that I don't want her to destroy. Mm-hmm. I don't like it. I don't approve of it, but I tolerate it because it's the lesser of evils and it's not really a big deal.
You need to get that dog a squeaky toy.
Dude, she destroys them. She's a young, energetic golden retriever. They don't stand a chance.
Get her a Kong. She can't destroy it.
What is a Kong?
Kong? Oh, you never seen a Kong before? You have to look it up.
It's like this little frozen thing that you
It's not frozen.
Oh, I thought
it's hard rubber.
Very
hard.
Now
rubber.
We have determined that she'll no longer eat ghost peppers.
I'm assuming not. Well, she doesn't chew on any of the cables that I put ghost pepper sauce on.
There you go.
So there is that. But she did attempt, because I keep her treats in Ziploc bags, and I had ghost peppers in Ziploc bags, and she found them in my purse, which she knows she's not supposed to go into, but she's in that rebellious teenage phase. So she discovered a Ziploc bag. Was like, ooh, I found treats. Yeah. I thought she ate one of them because there were two in there, and I only found one. But last night she started growling and barking, and I turned around to see what she was doing because she's a golden retriever, and they don't growl or bark ever. And sure enough, there was a little ghost pepper sitting there on the floor that she was just growling and barking at.
She didn't eat it.
No, she
just spat it out.
She had bit into it, but then she had decided
against it.
I'm not eating that. But she was very unhappy that it had the audacity to continue to exist. But it does work as a way of keeping her from chewing things that I don't want her to chew on. I don't tolerate her chewing on cables and stuff, hence the ghost pepper sauce that's on them. But tolerating something doesn't mean you approve of it. You kind of have to tolerate things that you don't approve of. Tolerate just means not stopping it. Just means allowing it.
That's right.
The left doesn't understand that. Nope. That's how we end up in this position. But what are your thoughts? 603-283-6160 if you'd like to weigh in. Coming up, we're going to talk about the metaverse that Facebook is pimping. But first, more news from New Zealand and their prime minister. They have a new plan to track people and monitor people. That's coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. Children in the U.S. could soon be vaccinated against COVID-19. The Food and Drug Administration Advisory Panel has recommended authorizing the Pfizer jab for children aged 5 to 11. It says the benefits of the shot outweigh any other health risks. FSN's Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The decision now needs approval from the full Food and Drug Administration and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Both agencies are expected to follow the panel's recommendation. Data from the company's clinical trials found that 1/3 of the dose given to adults and adolescents was safe and 90% effective. The CDC is expected to give the green light next Tuesday, meaning that jabs for 5-year-olds could begin as soon as a day later. If approved, 15 million doses will go out to pediatric offices, children's hospitals and pharmacies around the country.
Washington has revoked the operating license of China Telecom. It's the latest major Chinese firm to have its rights withdrawn over U.S. national security concerns. FSN's Caroline Malone reports.
China Telecom has operated in the United States for nearly 20 years, but it now has to stop providing services within 60 days. China Telecom called the decision disappointing, but said they plan to pursue all available options while continuing to serve their customers. The company specializes in trans-Pacific connection for business with cloud and data centers. It's a major player in the Chinese market and has hundreds of millions of customers in 110 countries. But Washington has withdrawn its license after deciding the Chinese government's control of the company meant it could access, store, disrupt and/or misroute U.S. communications. It's the latest Chinese telecoms firm U.S. officials have ruled on over national security concerns after Huawei and ZTE last year.
Strong earnings results helped boost the U.S. markets on Tuesday. A number of major tech companies also released their results after the closing bell. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
All 3 major indices ended the day in the green. The Dow hit another all-time high, closing up by 0.1%. The Nasdaq rose by the same amount. The S&P also recorded a new record close, up 0.2%. General Electric shares rose 5% after reporting higher than expected third-quarter profits and revising upwards its full-year earnings forecast. After the bell, Google parent company Alphabet released its results, revealing it beat earnings expectations to record revenue of more than $65 billion. Microsoft reported its total company revenue climbed 22% year-on-year to more than $45 billion. Twitter reported growth of 37% in the third quarter. Meanwhile, shares in trading app Robinhood tanked after it reported a big revenue miss because of a drop-off in demand for cryptocurrency. Sarah Walton, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at a debate over arts funding in Britain that is being mirrored in many other parts of the world. The UK government is planning to make it harder for young people to study the arts at university, proposing to emphasise instead student loans for courses focused on STEM degrees. But the proposals are generating controversy, cited as another attack on a sector of the economy that is vital to Britain's standing around the world. Professor Anne Carlisle is Vice-Chancellor of Falmouth University, which focuses predominantly on creative arts degrees.
Sometimes the arts don't help themselves by kind of categorising themselves as the arts. Creativity without exception, is acknowledged as being one of the most important skills for the future economy. And it's a skill that obviously just doesn't belong to the arts, but it is very embedded in the arts because the way in which we problem solve, the way we create, the way we innovate is so valuable. So today, increasingly, what you get are artists working with engineers, with technologists, with scientists. Sadly, that just isn't understood.
She argues that governments should stop thinking about individual discrete subjects of study and instead recognise that creativity is central to innovative thinking across all disciplines. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration Advisory Panel recommends authorizing the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children aged 5 to 11. The U.S. revokes the operating license of China Telecom over national security concerns. And strong earnings help boost U.S. markets before a number of major tech companies release their results after the closing bell. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
It's the Onion Radio News. A crazy man announces plans to stand in a doorway and yell at cars. This is Doyle Redland reporting. Dennis Fife, an Alhambra, California crazy man, held a press conference today to announce his intention to stand in the doorway of the office building at 2600 Kenilworth Avenue and yell at cars all day.
At approximately 9:30 a.m. on the day in question, shortly after I finish lunging at dogs, I will proceed to the front steps of the Simmons building and yell loudly for 9 hours. The screaming will be broken by a 15-minute fit of rigid catatonia, most likely in the late afternoon.
Among the topics Fife plans to address during his 9-hour rant, the ace of diamonds, bookshelves, the man trying to kill him, plastic bags in trees, Trapper John M.D., and papers everywhere. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us, 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And Conan.
And the Prime Minister of New Zealand hopes that fully vaccinated Aucklanders, I guess that's a city, Auckland, in
probably the
New
capital,
Zealand, will be able to leave the city by Christmas.
Oh, isn't that nice of her? Isn't that nice? I hate this woman.
To reiterate, that means in a part of the Western society world, they're not in the West, but they are Western society, certainly in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. There is a place where people are not allowed to leave their city. And that's absolutely horrifying. And it's worse, as I understand it, in Australia. We're going to tell you all about what this crazy lady has to say. But first, we have Major Payne calling from Michigan. Major Payne, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, I got an interesting news blurb that flew in my ear today that I wanted to share with y'all. Evidently, in the Amish community, they're all anti-vax and whatnot. Well, the COVID virus has already rode through the whole herd, and they now have herd immunity and have a 0 infection rate.
Oh yeah, they don't have any cases of autism either. Isn't that crazy?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Nope.
Amazing.
Unless they're putting them up on the hill for the wolves to eat at infancy, who knows? But or they're not reporting it. But
I've never heard that. I've never given it any thought either. I wonder what Noam Chomsky and these other progressives would have to say about the Amish being unvaccinated, because they don't get any vaccines. Isn't that correct?
Yeah,
I think so.
It is. And
they also don't pay Social Security.
I have a granddaughter that's autistic because of the MMR vaccine. It was like, 9 months, 18 months, something like that. She got it, and within 3 days, they noticed changes.
I don't know what's causing the rise in autism. And I know a lot of people like to say, oh, well, there's no real actual rise in autism. They just changed the diagnostic criteria so that it covers a larger range of things. But look, I'm one of the few people my age in my family who doesn't have kids. I've got like 12 nieces and nephews at this point, and close to a quarter of them are at least some level of autistic, and it's noticeable.
And this wasn't in your family before.
No, so whatever they like to say about, in the diagnostic criteria changed, yeah, that may be true, but there is still absolutely a rise in the rates of autism among people under the age of 12. I don't know what's causing it, but it's certainly there.
I got another one from the geniuses at Harvard, if you can bear with me.
Go ahead.
They've got a 95% vaccination rate, Harvard University, between staff, student, and everything else, right?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Well, about 2 weeks ago, they decided to go back to online learning. They have so much faith in the lies that they spread.
That's true.
And these are the people that are educating our judges and lawyers that have been riding roughshod over us this whole time.
Now, did they go back to online learning because of an outbreak in cases or anything like that?
Well, I think probably, but the people that are vaccinated are the ones that are getting whacked right now. This thing is the pimple is going to burst. They're not going to be able to hide what they do here pretty quick because the death rate of the vaccinated is going to go through the roof.
Well, they're going to hide it because correlation is not causation.
Have no choice.
Correlation is not causation. So somebody who dies after the vaccine, they'll just say, oh, that wasn't the vaccine that killed him. It was blood clots.
Yeah, and they will never actually admit. I mean, and even if they do actually admit it, I mean, they can be as truthful as they want. The average person out there is not actually paying any attention to what the media is saying about the COVID-19 and vaccinations and the ability of vaccinated people to still get and spread COVID-19 and still, in fact, be hospitalized and still die.
Well, what the media mostly says is they might report on those stories, but they'll always include a paragraph about how everyone knows vaccination is effective and it's helping people and vaccinations are good and now you can go get your third vaccine.
Oh, and by the way, this report brought to you by Pfizer.
Thank you so much for the call tonight, Major Payne. I was reading an article today where the CDC evidently described the vaccines as extremely safe. I don't know about most people out there, but that's not the language that scientists normally use.
Yeah, they bring you numbers. Yeah. Which, by the way, the efficacy of these vaccines have been plummeting. Once upon a time, it was like 100%, 95, 96, 98%, and now it's going the other direction.
Now you need a booster after a few months.
And if you're immunocompromised, you need a fourth booster now.
Already. By the way, I was wrong. Auckland is not the capital of New Zealand. It's just the biggest city. The capital is Wellington.
So let's go to what this crazy lady has to say, because
she's the prime minister, I believe, of the entirety of New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that is correct.
Yeah. Nope.
There's no unmuted.
Audio. She looks like a lizard.
Oh, it is not unmuted.
This is two different classes of people.
I'm going to restart it.
So you basically see it. This is going to be like, well, it's almost like you probably don't see it like this. The two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated,
that is what it is. So, yep.
So
she is smiling while she says this.
The reporter, if you couldn't hear him, he basically says, "What you're saying is this is going to create two different classes of people, one with rights and one without." And she says,
"Yep,
exactly.
That is what it is.
It is exactly what it is. Two different water bubblers, water fountains,
with a smile on her face.
Yeah, horrible woman. She's going to look so." When this is all said and done, and we are taking all the Faucis and this woman, and we're parading them down the street, heads shaved, naked, these criminals against humanity. She's gonna look real weird. She's already weird looking. She's gonna look real weird with a shaved head.
I don't think that's going to happen either. However,
after World War II, it happened.
PETA has stepped forward and demanded that Fauci step down. So,
PETA has finally for the dog situation.
They did.
Wow, I'm surprised.
I saw that earlier. I didn't have a chance to look into it, so it may be fake news. But from what I understand, PETA did say that it's time for Fauci to step down.
And by the way, this whole dog thing, doesn't it just prove how ridiculous all this is? That we had to go to dogs. We had to go all John Wick to get everyone to come out of the woodworks and actually demand that Fauci be fired for his sins.
But it wouldn't matter anyway.
But it's all right to force this experimental vaccine on the entire globe. That's all right.
They'll just put somebody else in his place who's just as bad, and you just don't know about him yet.
Well, they're going after his boss too. So they're this whole thing about funding Wuhan.
I mean, funding Wuhan wasn't even enough to do it. Learning that definitively Dr. Fauci was sending money to Wuhan labs for studies to be done on bat coronaviruses.
It's all right, but
even that wasn't enough.
But torturing dogs? Now you've crossed the line.
See, the reason why I wish I was as optimistic as you about this, Conan, but I don't think you're going to see any kind of parading around or shaved heads or criminal charges or anything like that, because they're not going to see what they're doing is wrong. Because the difference between what's happening now, even though we see it as, the unvaccinated are the new N-words, right? Like, it's pretty clear how the, society is being segregated and, like, the same playbook is being put into effect. But the thing is, they're going to see it as, oh, no. Being black wasn't a choice. Choosing not to get the vaccine, choosing to deny science, choosing not to follow our strong suggestions / orders, you've chosen to be in the unvaccinated. You've chosen this life of no privileges.
Yep. The problem is, Ian, they don't have the numbers. It's like 50-50 right now.
Well, that's it. We're going to have a breakup. It's not. We can't live with these people.
No, we can't.
They need to get the hell out of New Hampshire. We need more freedom-loving people to come to New Hampshire and start walking around carrying guns openly and walk around with no masks on to get these commie pussies to leave New Hampshire.
Yep, and it'll work too, because they're already talking about doing it.
Yeah, some of them have done it.
But yeah, if they had the numbers, let's say it was 75-15.
It is in the cities.
It is in the cities, but it's not out here in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do it. So in some regions of this country and the world, you will have people who will be basically thrown out for being criminals. This lady, the Faucis of the world, because I do see him as a criminal, not because he was torturing dogs, but just because he's been pushing this so hard, this experimental vaccine, and he's been ridiculing things like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine because we can't make money off of those drugs.
But you're right, Ian. You can't coexist with someone who is saying they want to deny you your rights based on choices that you make that only affect you. You can't coexist with a person like that. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. UCI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correa, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts, together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us, weigh in with whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. The 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
And Ian.
And Conan.
And for those who weren't aware, we do have a new AMP program. It's called the AMPS program. It stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support Free Talk Live. You can find it at amps.freetalklive.com. Of course, amp.freetalklive.com will also take you there. I want to say thank you, though, to WordWordUs, who is tonight's amplifier, a gold-level amplifier, which means that WordWordUs is giving $10 per month to us over on Patreon, which, again, you can find at amps.freetalklive.com. Doesn't take that much. All it takes is $5 per month if you want to help the show, get on more radio stations, all of that awesome stuff. You might consider joining the AMPS program. That's amps.freetalklive.com. We're talking about or listening to this absolutely immoral monster who is the Prime Minister of New Zealand, smiling while admitting that she is creating in her society, or the society that she rules over, two distinct classes of citizens, some of whom have rights, some of whom don't, based upon whether or not they're vaccinated.
And wait, if
it is straight up apartheid.
Correct, but I mean, if you don't have rights, you can't be a citizen, right? To be clear.
They may not have a constitution that enumerates that as such. They don't have one at all.
Not in New Zealand.
That's where they went wrong. And
the U.S. Constitution
didn't help us that much.
And you Aussies giving up your guns is where you went wrong.
They don't have a constitution either.
So let's go back to what this crazy lady has to say. She's being asked questions about the reporter. The last one was, are you going to create two classes of citizens, basically? And she smiles and said yes. He's got more questions for her, though.
Yep.
Can you describe, as you were previously hoping not to have to do that, I guess, when we still looked like we could maintain elimination across the whole country? I guess that has now changed because...
I think it was less because necessarily of the elimination determining that, and more because we, of course, maintained, and actually we have managed very high vaccination rates, generally, without the use of certificates. But actually what it's become clear to me is that they're not just a tool to drive up vaccines. They're a tool for confidence.
So she's not giving an answer here that's really related to the question. The reporter asked, initially you said you didn't want to take measures like this because you were hoping to just keep vaccination rates high, to which she says, well, we got the vaccination rates high, but this isn't just a tool for that. It's a tool for confidence. And now she's rambling on about the vaccine certificates instead of addressing the question about what changed that made her reluctant to do this in the past to make her do it gleefully in the present.
Yeah, because remember the news was like people in the Freedom Corner or whatever were promoting, oh, New Zealand, they're opening up. New Zealand's opening up. No, they're not.
No.
Who have been vaccinated will want to know that they're around other vaccinated people They want to know that they're in a safe environment.
But if you're vaccinated, why aren't you in a safe environment?
Exactly.
Because it doesn't work.
She's talking about confidence. And
Yes.
and you're vaccinated. Supposedly, 60% of the population of New Zealand have had 2 doses. Don't you feel confident that you're going to survive this?
It doesn't make any sense. And I just want someone on the left or anyone who believes this nonsense to explain to me why I have to be vaccinated for your vaccine to work.
Because it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, they've already admitted it doesn't.
Yeah, but me being vaccinated isn't going to make their vaccine suddenly work.
No.
But that's the argument they appear to be making. Oh, well, everyone has to get vaccinated or it does no good. That's silly. If I get vaccinated against the measles, you don't have to be vaccinated against the measles for me to not catch the measles from you.
That's because that's a real vaccine that actually provides an immunity.
There you go.
This one doesn't.
It clearly doesn't, because you can still get COVID-19. You can still spread COVID-19.
Yeah. And they ignore, and she ignores that, right, by saying, oh, it's a tool for confidence. She wants people who are just so scared, they don't want to leave their house. She wants them to feel confident, so everybody's got the vaccine, so they're safe to feel like everything's okay again, even though, of course, it doesn't help.
Let's go to more of what this crazy lady has to say.
There's a way that we can give confidence to those who are going back into hospitality or events. And so that is something that I think we should offer to people who have been vaccinated, that confidence that we're doing everything we can to keep them safe and that they can come back out and start enjoying those things safely.
But they've been vaccinated. What the hell? They're protected. They have the confidence. Let them back out.
You would think that the vaccine would be what makes them safe, not keeping the unvaccinated out, because they talked about the science. They wanted to play the science game throughout the entire pandemic, but now suddenly the science is meaningless because the science shows that you can still get and spread COVID-19 despite being vaccinated. The only difference between vaccinated people and unvaccinated people is that unvaccinated people have to get tested regularly in their new little system. So unvaccinated people, if they have COVID-19, they end up staying at home. But vaccinated people, they get COVID-19, they're free to spread it as much as they want because they don't have to get tested for it, and the science shows they can still get it and still spread it.
And not only that, mutated varieties, because supposedly they're protected, and now they've created a situation where the virus can mutate.
And where it has to mutate because 70% of the population is immune to it. The only way it can infect these people, and remember, the point of the virus is to get inside cells so it can reproduce and all of that stuff. If your body knows how to destroy it immediately, it has to evolve if it wants to survive. The moment we hit a population density of 50% of the population being vaccinated was the moment it was inevitable that a strain of COVID-19 able to bypass the vaccine came about. But it turns out that wasn't even necessary because the vaccines, they just appear not to work at all.
So it's a tool for business too. So
It's a tool.
So you'll see in September we released some modelling which is really sensitive to even minor changes.
This isn't about total control.
And that,
no, not at all.
It's just a tool. We're just trying to help people feel safe.
We're trying to help business. We're trying to help businesses.
Yeah.
Well, they have data. They did some modeling, right? The same modeling that showed like 80 million people were going to die.
See, tyranny is a tool to help business, right?
And to help people feel safe.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want. Safety.
roughly those baselines, we've assumed that the baseline settings that that modelling uses is essentially your orange setting. That's why we built in a red, and it's why we've said we'll use localised lockdowns as extra tools as well.
Okay.
Taking people's rights, locking them down, those are tools.
Just so you know, she's talking about orange, red, the color, red. She's referring to their new traffic light system, which according to, well, let's see what site this is. I don't know what the hell. I had to go to archive.ph to be able to read it, so they don't deserve any credit. But the traffic light system, under their new system, the highest red setting, as she says, would be enforced if there was a major COVID-19 outbreak. It would mean vaccinated people would be encouraged to work from home, but would be allowed to attend gatherings and visit shops, bars, and restaurants with relative freedom. But during a red period, non-vaccinated people can only gather in groups of 10 and cannot go to restaurants, bars, gyms, or hairdressers. And so I imagine orange is a different variant on that.
So I was curious what the traffic system was. Thank you for explaining that. She certainly didn't get into it. It's silly, and it means that this coronavirus lockdown pandemic response nonsense is here to stay, at least in New Zealand. The system they have in place now, it's not going to go away. But we get back something less depressing, the metaverse. What exactly does it mean? Living in virtual reality.
The Matrix.
Well,
it's here.
Zuckerberg wants to create that for us all. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, if they can pull it off, I'm down to give it a shot.
Zuckerberg?
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. Children in the U.S. could soon be vaccinated against COVID-19. The Food and Drug Administration Advisory Panel has recommended authorizing the Pfizer jab for children aged 5 to 11. It says the benefits of the shot outweigh any other health risks. FSN's Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
The decision now needs approval from the full Food and Drug Administration and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Both agencies are expected to follow the panel's recommendation. Data from the company's clinical trials found that 1/3 of the dose given to adults and adolescents was safe and 90% effective. The CDC is expected to give the green light next Tuesday, meaning that jabs for 5-year-olds could begin as soon as a day later. If approved, 15 million doses will go out to pediatric offices, children's hospitals and pharmacies around the country.
Washington has revoked the operating license of China Telecom. It's the latest major Chinese firm to have its rights withdrawn over U.S. national security concerns. FSN's Caroline Malone reports.
China Telecom has operated in the United States for nearly 20 years, but it now has to stop providing services within 60 days. China Telecom called the decision disappointing, but said they plan to pursue all available options while continuing to serve their customers. The company specializes in trans-Pacific connection for business with cloud and data centers. It's a major player in the Chinese market and has hundreds of millions of customers in 110 countries. But Washington has withdrawn its license after deciding the Chinese government's control of the company meant it could access, store, disrupt and/or misroute U.S. communications. It's the latest Chinese telecoms firm U.S. officials have ruled on over national security concerns after Huawei and ZTE last year.
Strong earnings results helped boost the U.S. markets on Tuesday. A number of major tech companies also released their results after the closing bell. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
All three major indices ended the day in the green. The Dow hit another all-time high, closing up by 0.1%. The Nasdaq rose by the same amount. The S&P also recorded a new record close, up 0.2%. General Electric shares rose 5% after reporting higher than expected third-quarter profits and revising upwards its full-year earnings forecast. After the bell, Google parent company Alphabet released its results, revealing it beat earnings expectations to record revenue of more than $65 billion. Microsoft reported its total company revenue climbed 22% year-on-year to more than $45 billion. Twitter reported growth of 37% in the third quarter. Meanwhile, shares in trading app Robinhood tanked after it reported a big revenue miss because of a drop-off in demand for cryptocurrency. Sarah Walton, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, where your calls and thoughts are welcome. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to weigh in. That's 603-283-6160. And for whatever reason, when people think about the future of video games and entertainment and things like that, it really just depends on how far into the future they look. You know, typically the next step is going to be these sort of VR-filled rooms where your body is the controller or whatever. But far in the future, you have things like the holodeck from Star Trek and things like that. And you have to start somewhere. And right now we're at the VR stage, the virtual reality stage, which has some impressive technology behind it.
It's finally gotten pretty good.
It has gotten pretty good, but it's not great. It depends heavily on the game. I played Skyrim VR. That's probably the VR game that I spent the most. It was a standard video game that I spent the most time playing, and
pretty clunky, right?
It was just like Vertigo, the game, and the graphics were terrible. It was not an enjoyable.
To be fair, that's a game that was not designed for virtual reality. They sort of shoehorned it in, basically.
They did,
because that came out in 2011 or something.
Yeah, that came out literally a
time ago. Vertigo, the game. This is the thing. Or are you just like it was Vertigo?
It just constantly gave me vertigo. Yeah.
Yeah. The only time I've ever strapped one of these things on, which was one of these hinky devices, it was a roller coaster. I about puked in 30 seconds. I mean, it was so
when you say
overwhelming.
It tricks your brain very, very well.
When you say hinky, what do you mean? Like
it was just. I think it was one of these goggles with someone's iPhone slid into it.
Google Cardboard is what they call that. That was like kind of like a proof of concept, basically. We tested that out here in the studio years ago.
That's probably when I was. Yeah. It was probably what I tested out.
And but that was enough to trigger the vertigo?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I have discovered, and so I don't know that I'll ever. We always talk about being able to do things our grandparents couldn't do. They can't change the blinking 12 on this VCR, and that's what we were able to do. What aren't we going to be able to comprehend, command, that our grandchildren are going to be like? I can just do it like that. I can plug in. I can just, I can jack in, and I can start doing all this. What aren't we going to be able to do? Because I think this is one of them that I'm not going to be able to do.
Okay, but here's the thing, and maybe the vertigo thing affects different people differently. I think it depends on the person, depends on the device. Also, the refresh rate is a factor, and using an iPhone isn't the same as putting on an Oculus Rift or something like that. It's not even near the same experience. But to the point about kids being able to program the VCR like we did in the 80s and the 90s for our grandparents.
By the way, our kids, actually, I take that back because our kids couldn't program the VCR either.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you would think
my microwave has been displaying the wrong time since like 2 months ago.
You would think that young people, having been raised with a phone in their hand or a tablet in their hand or a mouse in their hand from day zero, basically these days, would be more technically adept. But the reality is most of them aren't.
It's always been done for them. It's been handled.
They know their way around their device. Like they can, show you where the photos are. But they can't administer it. They don't know how to find their IP address. They don't know how to.
This is why the Raspberry Pi was invented, because all devices today, the user interfaces on them are just too good. Your average person doesn't have to dive into things to find out why things aren't working, or
because most of the time they work.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess that was a bad example, but there are some things, for example, my kid could do. She could text like a damn demon with her thumbs. I mean,
I can't do it.
I mean, she can go through and she can text faster than I can type. That's something that I actually learned in high school to type. I think I've got up to like 80 words a minute at the best of my life. I'm not that fast anymore. But so there's some things that kids can do.
I'm curious. Have you ever been on an actual roller coaster?
Yes.
Did you experience vertigo then?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's what I have determined. If I am not in control, if I was driving the roller coaster, I'm good to go.
Okay.
I've been in planes. I've been in planes. Every time I get in a plane, which hasn't been in a good while, I get very uncomfortable. I got that vent going right on me, sucking down the oxygen, and I just can't handle it. If I go sit in the cockpit and I can see the plane doing all the movement, I can see what's going on.
No problem.
No problem. It's good to go. And it's the same thing with any kind of game I've ever played. I've watched people play games and I'll get vertigo.
Okay.
But if I'm playing the same game, doing exact same jumps, exact same backflips, nothing's up at all. So if we move into this new VR territory, I'll have to be driving all the time. Otherwise, I'm puking. I can't be in the back seat driving with you.
Well, there are other games where you're not riding a roller coaster. There's probably something where you could drive a car or something, and then you wouldn't experience vertigo.
But this is not where we're going to. This is just the new gaming that.
The metaverse
The
pitch
metaverse is
more
everything.
than that.
The
Yeah.
metaverse is everything.
But it's still just ultimately a video game. Even though there's no end goal like Animal Crossing, you're still just living in an alternative world.
No,
right?
if I'm actually going into this virtual world via augmented reality, and I'm going to the bank, my bank.
Are we talking virtual reality now or augmented reality?
Well, it's a combination of both, right? I'll be in.
It's not real clear right now. There's a lot of buzzwords in this whole metaverse thing. I mean, I'm still not sure what the difference between metaverse and virtual reality is. If metaverse is not just a repackaging of virtual reality to try to sell this old idea to new masses, basically. So do you want to hear the pitch here? From,
let's get into the article.
Wall Street Journal. It's a very lengthy piece. We're only going to be able to, scratch the surface of this, but there's stories about the metaverse are starting to pop up in mainstream media all over the place. So it's a real push, and it might be like the World Economic Forum or something, that's behind this because of this whole COVID crackdown and people working from home. They're trying to sell the idea of, hey, you never have to leave your house again to people. That's basically kind of how they're putting this out there. But they go on to say that from the dawn of civilization, humans have only had one world in which to live, the real one. But tech visionaries say we'll soon have an alternative, a virtual world where our digital avatars and those of people in our communities and around the globe come together to work, shop, attend classes, pursue hobbies, enjoy social gatherings, and more. So they're literally saying this will replace your reality.
But you would starve to death.
Exactly. There's a ton of movies out there dealing with this exact dystopia.
Don't worry, they'll deliver your food to your home. You can get your...
Or you can just get hooked up to a machine like Matrix style and get it all intravenously.
And by the way, that'll be me, delivering your food, because I'll still be out and about working while you guys are strapped in.
Immersive video games and virtual concerts have given us a taste of this world, but visionaries say the metaverse, as this world has been dubbed, will be far more engaging and robust, not only mirroring the real world in all its three-dimensional complexity, but also extending it to allow us to be and do what previously could only be imagined. Walk on the moon in your pajamas, watch a baseball game from the pitcher's mound, frolic in a field of unicorns, or be a unicorn yourself.
See, I'm good with these pitches if I can just dedicate the same amount of time to them that I would dedicate to like a video game.
In the metaverse, tech visionaries say just about anything will be possible. Mark Whitten, whose title is Senior Vice President and General Manager of Create at San Francisco-based Unity Software, says the metaverse is going to be the biggest revolution in computing platforms the world has seen. Bigger than the mobile revolution, bigger than the web revolution, he says. They're building tools and services to enable people to create metaverse content. Other big tech companies are developing hardware and software products for the metaverse, including NVIDIA Corporation, Roblox, Epic Games, Microsoft, and Facebook. So you got big tech out there pushing this concept of the metaverse, which to me makes me say, oh, definitely. I like virtual reality. Like I tried it once at Derek J's party like 3 years ago, and it was pretty cool. But it was to the point where I was like, well, do I actually want to get one of these things? And I thought, no, I just don't have time for this. I've got too many things that are happening in real life that are more interesting. But the fact that these corporations, these big tech companies are behind this, that says it's bad news.
But Ian, what happens when everything that's going on is only happening in these virtual realities? These virtual,
be a problem.
And everything outside is just me delivering your food.
There are plenty of people who aren't going to buy into this.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to opt out.
Poor people.
Sounds scary to me. What about you? 603-283-6160. We're going to get more into the metaverse. It's Free Talk Live.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live with Aria, Conan, and Ian talking about the metaverse here, which seems like virtual reality plus, so to speak. It's sort of the things you see in science fiction where they create these virtual worlds for people to live in. And we were talking during the break about people spending so much time in these virtual worlds that they lose the ability to distinguish between the real world and the virtual reality world, on which one of these things is real. Because I was thinking during the break about how messed up a kid who was in one of these metaverse worlds from the age of 4, you know, the average American child watches, I think, 40 hours of television a week. Replace that with living in this virtual reality world for 40 hours a week, and that's going to be one messed up, confused kid.
Yeah, you know, the legislators, the anti-gun, anti-violence legislators are always coming out talking about how Grand Theft Auto is going to, create kids that going out and they're shooting hookers in the head, because that's what these violent video games do. But I mean, that argument has never panned out.
He's being sarcastic when he says, yeah.
And but we can tell the difference. You can obviously tell the difference that you're looking at a screen and you've got a control in your hand and you're controlling this person who's running around kicking people, shooting people, doing violent things.
Playing a violent video game in a metaverse will make a person violent in
Well,
real
now,
life?
if you can't tell the difference because it is so lifelike, because that's where it's coming. The video games that I play are getting more and more lifelike, but I can still tell the difference. Now, what happens when you wake up that one day and you can't tell the difference anymore, and you decide to go on a killing streak, running down Main Street, shooting people in the head, because that's what you do in your video games all day, just for a laugh. Except it wasn't. You weren't plugged in that day. You weren't jacked in. You were in real life. You're killing real people, but you couldn't tell the difference.
I don't know if video game graphics can ever get real enough to be indistinguishable from reality.
You don't have some visor glued to your face. You're actually jacked in. You've got a jacket.
Like a Matrix.
You got a port in the side of your head, and you pour it in.
It may be possible with quantum computing. I don't understand anything about quantum computing, but without that, the processing power something like that would take just to render a single person, much less an entire world, in that level of detail.
Well, no, it's not going to be the whole world. It's going to be all the rich people first. And then then eventually people will move up. The poor people aren't going to get any of this because they're going to be out delivering your food because you're strapped into your damn tube.
This will be affordable. They're going to make this affordable. I mean, already
they don't want the rich people doing this. The rich people are going to be using it to rule the world as they see fit.
Oh yeah, the smart rich people, the ones who don't let their kids have iPhones and whatnot because they know how they get trapped in these worlds.
They're already offering $300 virtual reality sets. I mean, there's plenty of poor people that have a PlayStation 4. Right, and that's what, $300 for something like that. So this is going to be within the range of the average person who wants to escape, and people will want to escape their crappy lives,
and especially as they only get crappier because of COVID-19 and being
hyperinflation,
and they're locked in their house all day long,
not being able to hang out with friends and stuff. Oh well, here's this virtual world where you can still do all those things.
Where you can be all powerful. You can change your avatar to whatever. You can be whatever you want to be. You can look like whatever you want to look.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg had this to say, quote, "In addition to being the next generation of the internet, the metaverse is also going to be the next chapter for us as a company." He said, "In the coming years, I expect people will transition from seeing us primarily as a social media company to seeing us as a metaverse company." And they've had this plan, right? Like that's why they bought Oculus Rift.
Right.
And now they're moving forward in that virtual sphere. In fact, they're even going to rename their company. I don't know if you heard about that recently. Facebook is going to change the name of their company. I think they're still going to have Facebook as one of their brands.
They've got to keep that at least FB. Yeah. And then whatever they want to call this silly thing.
Entering this.
So what does they rename? What are they?
They haven't said yet.
Okay.
But it'll be something metaverse related, I suspect. Entering this vast new realm, this is again the Wall Street Journal reporting, could mean using common devices like smartphones and computers, but executives say specialized glasses similar to but less bulky and more comfortable than the virtual reality headsets on the market today will allow for greater immersion. We'll also likely see a wider selection of haptic gear that lets users feel virtual objects, as well as hardware like omnidirectional treadmills that can simulate running, climbing, and other physical activities.
That was my criticism.
When I get hit by a fireball, I want to feel it.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. That's the number one criticism I have of VR. That's if you want to give me the visual sensations, you got to give me. I don't want to feel like I got hit with a fireball or a hammer or whatever, but I want to feel that something happened. And if I'm going to walk in a virtual world, it's too disconnecting to know that I'm physically just standing there. I want to be able to walk as well. And those 8-directional treadmills, they're thinking the same things I'm thinking. That's how it's got to be if it's going to work.
And exactly.
But even then, for me, it's only going to work for a little bit of time. I'm going to pop in to play a video game and then pop right back out.
You say that now, except like I told Ian, what if everything that's going on is going on in these virtual worlds?
They want people to go to work. They want people to shop. They want people to play.
See, I'm not doing any of that.
And by the way, you're not going to need any special treadmill or special suits if you're porting right into your head.
The people who are all in favor of lockdowns are going to love this.
Oh, yeah.
They are going to be so excited about this. So again, this will be more of the division, right? There'll be the people who are like, hey, let's go outside and actually do something. And then there'll be people who, like that lady that calls the show, her friends in San Diego, California, who don't ever want to meet in real life, even though they're all in their 30s. You know, they're not going to in any way die from COVID, but they're too deathly afraid. Those are the kind of people who are going to be attracted to this. Oh my God, we can meet in the metaverse.
It certainly doesn't sound coincidental that this is happening, you know, right in the midst of a, quote, pandemic.
Yeah, but they've been talking about virtual reality for forever.
Yeah, but now the media is really pushing this metaverse
really
stuff.
are. Yeah, virtual reality never caught on.
Yeah, well, yeah, good point. When you consider all of the Zoom meetings and the work from home and that have really taken off
the
year
virtual
and last.
dance parties that people have had pathetically.
What?
Dude, the Colonial Theater here in Keene had a virtual dance party.
Come on, man. Stop that.
Dude,
Yeah, it was
I'm
a
not joking.
fundraiser.
Can you just imagine these sad people in their homes by themselves dancing with their cats or whatever,
Yep, I can
looking at
imagine
their
it.
webcam and a screen full of other people doing equally sad stuff?
Considering that I never like to leave the house, this might be good for me.
So they talk about the avatars in this story. I'm jumping down a little bit, and how, you know, it's going to be more lifelike than cartoonish avatars familiar to virtual reality fans. And there's no doubt graphics processing is getting better constantly over time. They say avatars could represent deceased individuals, including family members and friends.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all.
As well as historical figures. And with help from artificial
Hold
intelligence.
on. Does that mean I could actually go back in time and assassinate Abraham Lincoln?
Well, with the right programming.
That's not going to be an option, Arya. Hitler is the option.
I would also assassinate Hitler.
Maybe Stalin.
Or Woodrow Wilson, or whoever it was that intervened in World War I that led to the conditions that created Hitler.
But I was somewhere I was reading, maybe it was a Reddit article or something. The way to tackle this is to not go kill Hitler. It's to go sleep with his mom. And that's the way to do it. That's the non-violent way to do it.
Why?
I don't know, because.
But then you're Hitler's parent.
No, he's never created. I don't
Maybe
know.
Hitler was inevitable.
It's a non-violent. Exactly. That void would have been filled.
The avatar experience will feel so real that you can hardly tell the difference between a virtual meeting and a physical meeting, says one of the proponents. But he says the virtual experience will be better. How it is? I'm not sure.
I don't see how that could possibly be the case.
Avatars, however, won't be the only way people appear in the metaverse. Tech executives say we'll be able to watch video of the real world, including live footage of concerts and athletic events, for example, but rather than having to view events from the limited perspectives producers offer us, we'll have the freedom to enjoy these events from any angle of our choosing. And with a finger tap, we'll be able to call up information about artists and athletes we're watching, such as their standing on the Billboard charts and how many points they've scored in a season. We'll also be able to mix virtual content with real-world video and interact virtually by, for instance, pelting football players with virtual tomatoes. But the players won't feel a thing.
Here's the only problem with all this. You're going to get a huge swath of the population who are hooked on this and who are plugged in, jacked in all the time.
That's not the problem. That's the goal.
But you are always going to have another class of citizen.
Mm-hmm.
This is Gattaca right here, who set up the cameras. So you go to say you have your concert. You have to have someone set the cameras up. You have to set the room up. And then then of course your artists are going to have to unjack themselves to go, if you even have artists in this world. Who actually
That's true. You could just have robots creating it, or AI or whatever.
Well, you have AI who are composing, classical symphonies now.
I've heard that, but I haven't looked into it in like a decade. And the last I heard, the one that was composed was like terrible. But that was like a decade ago.
I just listened to one it was a Schubert rendition, and it sounded pretty reasonable. It sounded pretty good. So this is an option. But yeah, you're still going to have people deliver your food. Are the robots going to be that?
Have you heard of Soylent?
You're just eating your
not the movie.
So,
there's an actual product.
Is this algae or something?
It's some sort of a food drink product that gamers who never get up from their gaming chair
and they're sitting on a toilet,
and they imbibe this, and it's a meal replacement, quote unquote.
I've never heard of it. Sounds horrifying. I don't want a lot to do with this metaverse if it's going to come with all of these strings attached. You can chat with us in the meantime. We're on the internet over at chat.freetalklive.com. If you want to join us there, that's chat.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative.